Rebirth in India as a Brahmin. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Wedding, Part 1. As mentioned before, getting married in India is an extremely troublesome thing. I believe that everyone can imagine how complicated the wedding ceremony is just by looking at Shakru's engagement ceremony. The first thing to do is the yellow letter ceremony, which is actually the engagement date. This date must be set by the woman, because in India, the woman is the one who pays the dowry, so it is in line with the principle that whoever pays has the final say. Although Shakru is not short of the money for Amisha's dowry, this custom must still be followed. According to the process, the woman, that is, the Patara family, set the wedding date of September 9th, 1999, and then sent it to Shakru in the form of a letter, and painted turmeric or gold on the outside of the envelope, because in India gold symbolizes auspiciousness and the joy of spring. Of course, this is also the origin of the yellow letter ceremony. Letters painted with gold are referred to as yellow letters normally. This special yellow letter is sent to the man's home by the woman's bribery, or by a postman. For an old family like Patara, a postman is directly sent to Shakru. As soon as the yellow letter is ready. According to custom, the man should organize people to sing and dance to celebrate after receiving the letter, and then the priest will open the envelope and read the wedding date on the letter. Shakru has naturally prepared a large number of professional singers and dancers, and the work of opening the letter is personally done by the Shakri priest. In fact, the wedding date can be negotiated. If the man does not agree with the date proposed by the woman, he can set another one and then notify the woman, but Shakru will naturally not do such a thing. After the yellow letter ceremony, there is the rope tying ceremony. This ceremony is held 15 days before the wedding. The priests choose an auspicious day to worship Lord Ganesha. This is to ask Lord Ganesha for the smooth completion of the marriage. During this prayer ceremony, the priests will tie a rope on the groom's wrist. This is also the origin of the name of the ceremony. From this day to the wedding day, the groom must worship Lord Ganesha every day. This ceremony is naturally presided over by the Shaktism priest, and it is held on the third day after the yellow letter ceremony. After the rope tying ceremony, the turmeric rubbing ceremony is held. This ceremony is held 7 days before the wedding. Every day, the bride and groom who are about to get married mustard oil are wiped. The origin of the name of the ceremony. The rubbing is mostly singers, mothers, sisters-in-law or other married women. Mukesh's wife is responsible for wiping Shakru, and Amisha's sister-in-law is responsible for it. This ceremony requires the bride and groom to wipe their hands, feet, legs, chests, etc., especially on the morning of the wedding day. It is said that this is done to make the body beautiful and to increase the body's virginity. However, Shakru obviously does not think so. Instead, he feels that there is no virginity after wiping. During the wiping process, the bride and groom must hold a knife in their hands. It is said that such iron objects can help drive away the devil. Obviously, this is a tradition from the time when iron objects were not popular. At the same time, both men and women must tie a bracelet on their hands, which is strung with small shells, betel nuts, iron rings and turmeric, to symbolize the auspiciousness of marriage and to drive away ghosts and evil spirits. For these procedures, Shakru is fine, but there is one thing that he really can't stand, that is, from the day of the turmeric wiping ceremony, single men and women who are about to get married are not allowed to go out alone, so as not to encounter ghosts and evil spirits and suffer misfortune. This really made him feel suffocated, but Mukesh watched him personally, so he couldn't go out, so he had to stay at home to handle work. Compared with Shakru, the rituals in Amisa are more complicated and cumbersome, with many more rituals that the man does not have. The first is the pad ceremony, which is actually a ceremony to help with the fun. On the day of this ceremony, the uncles and mothers-in-law will come to their niece's house with gifts. The gifts they bring include clothes and shoes for the niece who is about to get married, clothes and headscarves for the niece's parents, uncles, and some will also bring some rice, candy, jewelry and cash. In addition, some bright saris, bracelets, anklets and other accessories are specially given to the niece who is about to get married. Through this ceremony, the uncles help with the wedding on the one hand, and help maintain harmonious relations on the other hand. Originally, this ritual to help with the fun is dispensable, but for a large family like Patara, this good opportunity to deepen the relationship between relatives will naturally not be missed, especially since Amisa is married to a young talent like Shakru who has both wealth and status. So these relatives will naturally not miss this opportunity. To please point, then there is the Mehendi ceremony on the night before the wedding. On this night, married women from the bride's relatives and friends will gather at the bride's home and use green powder ground from plant leaves to draw various patterns on the bride's hands and feet. This pattern is called Mehendi. Sometimes naughty bride companions will turn the bride's hand painting into a game, hiding the groom's name in the bride's hand painted patterns. Only when the groom finds his own name in these patterns can he start his sweet wedding night. After the Mehendi ceremony, there is the women's music night ceremony, which is actually a relaxing music party held by these women after drawing the perfect Mehendi, a bit like our pre-wedding singles night here. However, this kind of music night is only popular in northern India, and there is no such ceremony in the south. The man will hold a banquet ceremony the day before the wedding. On this day, the man will invite all relatives and friends to have a big meal and have a lively time. This ceremony has two functions. One is to inform everyone that XXX is going to get married. The other is to invite everyone to gather together and get everyone's blessings to make the wedding safe and smooth. At the banquet, the groom will thank the guests and accept their congratulations. After the banquet, there is a ceremony to worship the potter's turntable. This ceremony must be held by both men and women, but the time of holding is different. The man's is a day before the wedding party departs, and the woman's is before the man's wedding party arrives. During the ceremony, the women among the relatives and friends of the new couple will go to the potter's house to worship the turntable of his family's pottery and put some rice, flour, candy and other items on the turntable. At this time, the potter will give them some new pottery in exchange. It is said that through this ceremony, the newlyweds can be united and harmonious in the future, and their feelings will be as solid as a rock. Chapter 302, Wedding, Part 2. On the wedding day, the first thing to be done is the Jengyadan ceremony, which is a ceremony in which the bride's father hands the bride to the groom. Fire is humanized in Indian weddings and is recognized as a witness at the wedding. People put tea in the fire and chant hymns from the Vedas. At this time, Shakru and Amisha were brought to the fire. Amisha's father asked Shakru, "Shakru Pandit, are you willing to be Amisha Patala's husband? I feel like I'm taking some work away from Christian priests." Shakru nodded and said, "I do." Then, Amisha's father asked, "Can you fulfill all the responsibilities of a husband?" At this time, Shakru must answer loudly, "It can be done." In fact, this is also a guarantee to all relatives and friends in the audience. Then Shakru said to Amisa, "You and I will grow old together. I will feed you, clothe you, and protect you. I wish you health, longevity, and many children." I think this sentence is a bit awkward, but in the information that's how it is written. I have never attended an Indian wedding. Then Shakru and Amisha said together, "We will help each other and live in harmony from now on. Our hearts are as pure as water and we are one person." Still feeling awkward after saying this, Amisa's father handed over his daughter to Shakru and asked Shakru to promise that he would meet his wife's requirements in the future and never abandon her. The Jengyadan ceremony is followed by a handshake ceremony. The bride's father puts his daughter's hand into the groom's hand and sprinkles a little water to indicate that he has handed over his daughter to the groom. At this time, the groom should hold the groom's hand and recite 6 mantras and swear to the bride, "I hold your hand and wish you happiness. You will grow old with me and be a lifelong partner. It is mine to support you." Responsibility. He also said, "We have handed over our hands to each other and we will love each other and depend on each other." After these are completed, the bride is given a sacred thread. In India, high caste men must wear a sacred thread as soon as they are born, while women can only wear it after they get married. Therefore, the sacred thread on the wrist means that the woman has been married, and the material of the sacred thread must be the same as that of the husband, which is also in line with the principle of obedient marriage. However, this makes no difference to Shakru and Amisa, because both of them are noble Brahmins. There should be 3 knots on the bride's sacred thread, reminding the bride that your lifelong obligation is to serve your parents, husband, and son. Then there is the Helio ceremony. The bride's brother lifts one of the bride's feet and puts it on a stone. At this time, the groom will say to the bride, after you climb on this stone, you must abide by it like it. Follow the rules, be law-abiding, be consistent, and fulfill the responsibilities of a virtuous woman. That is, give birth to children, take care of her husband, take care of the house, etc. Then the two prayed to the god of fire together as mentioned earlier. Fire is the witness of the wedding, so worshipping the god of fire is a very important ceremony in the wedding, called the Rajam ceremony. It is also a blessing ceremony. The bride and groom stand facing the east with a fire in the middle. They regard the fire as a god and use the god of fire as a witness. To complete this wedding ceremony, the groom and the bride throw the cooked rice in their hands into the fire, pray to the god of fire, and recite 3 mantras to bless the bride, so that she can become a mother soon, enjoy the joy of having a child, and bless the child to grow up and live a long life. The whole family is happy and prosperous. In addition, the bride also prays to God to bless her husband's health, and that her love with her husband will grow day by day. She also wishes that her mother-in-law's family and her husband's family will become rich, and that their family will be rich and prosperous forever. At this time, the groom will give the bride some clothes to show his determination to support his wife. The worship of the fire god is not limited to prayers. There is also a ritual of circumambulation of the sacred fire called Sabadabodhi. The bridegroom and the bride use the god of fire as a witness to circle the fire 7 times, saying an oath every time they turn. So it is also called the 7 oath ceremony, or the 7 circle ceremony. This kind of holy fire used for circling is a fire burned with 7 different kinds of wood, which represents a high religious significance. When performing this ceremony, the hands of the bride and groom are connected with a ribbon, with the groom in front. The bride is behind, and the two circle the sacred fire 7 times. Each circle is a wedding vow, and Ani, the god of fire, is the witness of the wedding vow. Because the holy fire can burn away all evil things and protect the new couple's happy life. So these 7 circles have a very profound and important meaning. In the first circle, meals are always provided. Second lap, good health. The third circle is to follow the rules of the Vedas throughout your life. The fourth circle is a lifetime of happiness. In the fifth circle, the number of cattle and other animals in the family increases day by day. Circle 6, every season is beneficial. On the 7th lap, all the sacrificial activities were successfully completed. After these 7 circles, the groom and the bride make a final wedding vow. We have walked 7 circles. You belong to me now. We have become spouses, and I belong to you. I can't live without you in the future. Let us share happiness. We are words and words. You are the thought and I'm the sound. We are friends now, and I will never abandon this friendship. Let us live together forever. Life. The groom also has to apply cinnabar powder in the bride's hair and wear an auspicious chain on her. For a married woman, these 2 things are symbols and signs of becoming a wife. After circling the holy fire, the bride and groom performed a touching ceremony to their parents and elders present. At this point, the wedding came to an end, followed by a grand wedding banquet and song and dance performance. It is not difficult to see from the above rituals that Hindu marriage rituals are very complicated and have a strong religious component. All rituals are inseparable from worshipping gods, praying and singing religious songs. The above rituals can generally be seen everywhere, but they are particularly popular in North India. However, there are differences in the practices of some rituals between states, and even within the same state. P.S. Although Chinese weddings, especially those in northeast China, are not as troublesome as those in India, I'm still very tired. Now I finally deeply understand why everyone does not divorce, because getting married is too troublesome, and I never want to do it again. PS2, after the wedding, I will go to Zion for a trip, and walk along the Silk Road. It will take about half a month, so the updates during this period will change. I will try my best to update continuously, strive for 1 chapter every day, and it will be stable when I come back on the 18th. So don't think that this book will not be written. Chapter 303, Blue City. There are 3 of the most famous blue cities in the world. They are completely different from the beautiful Greek island of Santorini and the leisurely blue and white town. Jodhpur in India is a gorgeous city in the desert. When you climb up the greatest building in Jodhpur, the Mehrangarh Fort, and look out at the whole city, the gorgeous blue color will surely shock you for a long time. At least Shakru and Amisha felt very shocked now. After the wedding, the two young people who were almost tortured crazy by the complicated wedding ceremony hurriedly started their honeymoon trip, and the first stop was in the desert. The blue city of Jodhpur in the heart. Many cities in India have a very interesting nickname, some of which are named after colors, such as the blue city of Jodhpur where Shakru is now located, the pink city of Jaipur, and the golden city of Jaisalmer, and some are named after the characteristics of the city. For example, the card known as the Sex Temple mentioned earlier Panglahu is known as the City of Six, Bikaner famous for the Rat Temple is known as the Rat City, Agra famous for the Taj Mahal is known as the City of Love, and Varanasi famous for bathing and the holy river known as the Bathing City. There are also the poor city of Jhansi, the fasting city of Pushkar, the joyful city of Goa, the cinema city of Mumbai, etc. Although they are both cities named after colors, the blue city of Jodhpur and the pink city of Jaipur are different. The reason why Jaipur becomes the pink city is mandatory. In 1727, the then Prince of Jaipur, Jai Singh, the word Jai in the name of the city of Jaipur comes from his name. In order to pay tribute to the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, a pink palace was built with red sandstone materials according to the style of the Red Fort in Old Delhi. His descendants did not forget his legacy and continued to expand and renovate the palace. Slowly, the palace became a pink architectural museum. It was not until 1876, with that final event, that the pink city finally deserved its name. That year, the world had long since changed its imperial flag, and the British Empire had become the master. Also wanting to please his master, the Maharaja of Jaipur, in order to welcome His Royal Highness the Prince of England, issued a mandatory decree that all houses in the city must be painted pink. Because it was compulsory, no one continued painting without a compulsory order. Under the wind and rain for more than 100 years, the wall coverings in many places in Jaipur had faded and fallen off, and only large patches of color remain. The blue city of Jodhpur is different. Not only has the large-scale painting organized by the local government lasted for hundreds of years, but you can even often see local people taking blue mops and smearing on the walls and painting the houses blue color. And unlike the blue city, Santorini, in Greece, although the main color of Jodhpur is blue, the color scheme is red, yellow, green, gray, and there are all kinds of colors. Unlike Santorini, except for blue, it is white, clean and pure, connected to the sea and the sky. In response to this, Shakru asked jokingly, Amisha, compared with the blue city in Greece, does it mean that the aesthetic level of the citizens here has been high enough to recognize that simple colors are more in line with people's subconscious pursuit of beauty than complex colors, and regard them as this consciousness is sublimated into social norms and everyone abides by them? Although he said this in his mouth, he didn't think so in his heart. Talking about aesthetics in this kind of place, where people and cattle share excrement, is just like in the mountains and local areas of China. Peasants discuss the latest Parisian fashions, which is an insult to both parties. Don't talk nonsense. There are two official opinions on this. One is that blue has the effect of repelling mosquitoes. Hearing this, Shakru couldn't help but complain. Oh my god, this is the first time I've heard Indians use scientific principles to explain real life since I traveled back in time. Although the source of the theory is not a scientist's laboratory report, but simple empiricism, but this is shocking enough. However, after thinking about it carefully, Shakru couldn't help but interrupt Amisha and said, this statement seems unreliable. If this kind of blue paint is really effective in repelling mosquitoes, then other cities would have just followed the trend. But the fact is that this situation only exists in one city, Jodhpur. Amisha hit him and said, you interrupted me before I finished speaking. Isn't there a second theory? It is said that this is the territory of Brahma, and all the residents of Blue City are his followers. The palace of the creator god is blue. No matter whether the locals paint the house dark or light blue, the subtext is that Brahma is with me. Shakru nodded and said, well, this is relatively close to Indian people's sentiments. In this country, where theology is far more advanced than science, if you think about everything more spiritually, you may be right. While joking, the two continued to visit Melangia Castle. The entire castle is the military commanding heights of the city, sitting on the top of a hill in the center of the city. Other buildings in the city are built around the mountain, and residential houses are scattered throughout the mountainside and valleys. This kind of urban layout is similar to that of Athens, Greece. Looking up from any angle in the city, you can clearly see the towering castle, Acropolis. According to locals, before the castle was built, the top of the mountain was originally the palace of the bird god. The driven bird god angrily uttered the most vicious curses. Let this desert city be short of water forever. Let the plague run rampant in this sin city. Sure enough, the ensuing drought and plague almost turned the city full of flowers into the ancient lowland of India. Just when the city was in danger, an ascetic saint was willing to bury himself alive under the city, hoping to complete the salvation of the city by committing suicide. The bird god was moved by his self-sacrifice and finally withdrew the spell. Immediately, the people praying for rain saw a long lost dark cloud floating in the distant sky point on the mountain road leading to the flower castle. I saw the stone tablet carved to commemorate the saint's merits. Above the inscription is a sacred bird with a canopy on its head. The content of the inscription records that mythical history in detail. There is still about 200 meters of mountain road from the inscription to the castle gate. A 90-degree turn suddenly appears near the city gate. The castle builders were ingenious and designed it to prevent charging elephants from breaking through the city gates due to their inertia during war. In order to further strengthen the defense, hundreds of 1-foot-long iron nails were arranged vertically and horizontally on the outside of the city gate. The strong metallic luster still makes people feel cold even now. Although their function has long been transformed from military to decorative, in the era of frequent wars between vassal kings, countless soldiers who attacked the city were stabbed through their bodies and died miserably under the city gate. Will they die with their eyes open? Only one step away, the fort that represents the most outstanding architectural achievement of ancient India will appear in front of you. PS. Sorry, I was really tired during my honeymoon trip. I lost nearly 10 pounds. I really don't have time to update. I'm really sorry for everyone. It finally came back yesterday, and updates will officially resume today. Don't worry, updates will not be interrupted again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Handprint. You will see miracles, you will ascend to heaven, and you will gain eternal life. Those blood-red handprints are the last remains of the concubines before they died. At that time, they had already worn the most gorgeous saris and the most dazzling jewelry. They treated the funeral as a wedding. Which star does not want a perfect farewell performance? The onlookers danced, shouted, excited, and shouted good, singing for their loyalty and rejoicing for their bravery. This made them not only willing, but also calm to walk to the crematorium. The beauty of another world has constructed a grand blueprint in their hearts. Let's go, sisters. 1 meter away, there is Heaven Point. After listening to Shakru's explanation, Amisa's expression became even more gloomy, and she said hesitantly, then don't they feel pain when they are burned by fire? When they set themselves on fire, do they feel burning pain? Shakru repeated in a murmur, and then said, from the perspective of physics, biology or medicine, it should be. But from the perspective of religion, I'm afraid not. The power of religion will only make them feel a burst of fanaticism, not the body, but the mind. The firmness formed by faith at that moment is enough to make them go through mountains of swords and seas of fire. After a moment, there is no consciousness, no more people, no more gods. Everything is gone with the burning firewood and a wisp of wind. Seeing Shakru's heavy expression, Amisa comforted him. Fortunately, such tragic things will no longer happen in India now. Shakru did not answer this sentence because he knew that to this day, in some remote areas of India, such things still happen frequently. When human history has entered the 21st century, when mummies and terracotta warriors are only displayed in museums, when the cruelty of the pharaohs and the brutality of Qin Shi Huang are only small notes on the cards next to them, in today's India, there are still people who are willing to use their flesh and blood to explain the term slave society in the most modern way. What is more chilling than cruelty and brutality is ignorance. However, there is obviously no need to tell Amisa about this. Anyway, she can't get in touch with these low-level things, so why bother to ruin her mood? So Shakru put his arm around her waist and said, okay, let's not think about these past things, let's go inside the castle and take a look. Entering the city gate, you can see the main body of the castle. The excellence of Merengar Castle lies in the fact that it is the most comprehensive and complex of the many ancient castles in India. First of all, it consists of many annexes, such as the Pearl Palace, Akhana. These palaces themselves are exquisite art treasures, where the ceilings, doors, windows, walls, all of which are in various shapes and colors. Secondly, since the castle was built entirely with the help of the mountain, although the appearance is seamless, the various palaces inside are on different planes and connected by corridor stairs. This architectural model of round outside and square inside is still worthy of investigation and study by architects. Several special exhibition rooms. The sedan chair museum collects various genuine sedan chairs that the princes took when they left the palace. The most distinctive one is the elephant sedan chair, which is placed on the back of an elephant when riding and can seat 2 people in front and back. The sedan chair is decorated with lion patterns. I don't know whether it is because lions can defeat elephants or because the princes compare themselves to the king of the jungle and the king of troubled times. The Royal Art Museum exhibits exquisite ancient Indian paintings. Most of them are from the hands of court painters, and the content is mainly about royal life, such as horse racing, archery, ball games, night banquets, etc. The painting method is similar to the ancient Chinese fine brushwork painting, with delicate and neat brush strokes. All the pigments are extracted from natural plants or rocks, which can remain bright for hundreds of years. The meeting hall. A series of 5 built-in platforms can be seen above the far corner of the hall. When the princes received foreign envoys or discussed state affairs with their ministers, the concubines could watch and listen from these distant platforms. After the meeting, they would discuss family affairs, state affairs and world affairs with the princes. This is similar to the Chinese practice of ruling behind the curtain. There is a fort at the highest point of the castle, and dozens of cannons guard this blue city with hundreds of years of ups and downs. Looking at the city from here, it is found that the title of Blue City is much more worthy of the name than Pink City. The blue world is even a little dazzling under the afternoon sun. Chapter 305 Multiplication Formula. There is a very famous local market called Sardinia, the clock tower of Jodhpur's iconic building. The variety of goods here is quite rich, and there are all kinds of imaginable and unexpected things. The Sardar who just came down from Merengar Fort Kalu and Amisa were wandering here at this time. Brother Shaklu, what is this? Amisha suddenly picked up a strip of wool-like object and asked Shaklu. Shakru took it and played with it, then shook his head and said, I really don't know about this. Then he asked the boss, what is this thing used for? Seeing Shakru's attire and temperament, the vendor knew that he was no ordinary person, so he replied respectfully, Sir, this is a kind of ore we have here. I don't know the specific name, but it has the same effect as chalk. Somewhat similar, and cheap enough to cost just a few cents. You can buy one. So many children from poor families who cannot afford paper and pen use this thing to practice writing on the ground. Moreover, it is edible and has a unique taste. He picked up one, put it in your mouth, and eat it like French fries. Shakru curiously picked up a relatively clean piece and took a bite. Then he couldn't help but turn around and spit it out. He said somewhat depressedly, well, the taste is unique enough, but I really can't accept it. While he was talking, several primary school students in school uniforms ran over and bought a few of these strips of ore. What's interesting is that in the blue city of Jodhpur, even the school uniforms of students are sky blue. Amisha saw that several little girls looked very cute, so she gave them the packages of beautifully packaged snacks she had just bought, and then asked casually, are you still primary school students? Do you know how to memorize multiplication tables? The little girl replied sweetly, I have learned how to memorize it a long time ago. Now I'm memorizing the nth power table of natural numbers. Hearing this answer, Shakru felt a little emotional. Before traveling, he had always thought that China's education was the toughest and most difficult in the world. However, after arriving in India, he discovered that in some aspects, especially mathematics, Indian teaching the difficulty is much higher than that in China. Take the multiplication formula mentioned by the little girl just now as an example. In China, people recite the 9 multiplication table, but in India, they recite the 19 multiplication formula. The difficulty of 9 and 19 is the same. Quantities are definitely not on the same level, and this is only part of the requirements for primary school mathematics. What you also need to recite is the nth power table of natural numbers. India's education department believes that if most citizens can recite the 19 times 1 power table proficiently, then everyone's calculation speed will be much faster, and the entire country will develop faster. For example, engineers can calculate faster, and salespeople can calculate faster. Get change faster and more. Difficult homework can bring students a bright life prospect, but it also causes them tremendous psychological pressure. In order to relieve the pressure on students, the Indian Education Department stipulates that students in public schools must hug each other when they enter school every morning, but only between the same sex. Although Indian students are under great pressure, there are still many children from poor families who are eager to go to school because the Indian government provides free lunch to every student. And only by going to school can you change your destiny, otherwise you will have to make a living by begging and picking up garbage in the future. Just when Shakru was thinking wildly, Amisa continued to ask, which school do you plan to attend in the future? Several children said in unison, IIT. The full name of IIT as the children call it is Indian Institute of Technology, which translates to Indian Institute of Technology. This is the best university in India and represents the top level of Indian higher education. It is featured in the very famous Indian movie 3 Idiots in Bollywood. The performance is actually the school. IIT has a good reputation in the West, although it ranks low in the West due to poor research. In fact, engineers from IIT are famous all over the world. Among the PhDs in science and engineering at top universities in the United States, there are many from India's IIT, and their evaluations are very high. Moreover, since higher education in India started relatively early and is still taught in English, brain drain is also very early. In Silicon Valley and other American technology companies, there are many Indians, including at the top. In the United States, the average salary of Asians is higher than that of whites, and Indians have the highest salary among Asians. Although the children's wishes were good, Shakru felt that none of the children in front of him would be able to pass the IIT. Because IIT has its own entrance examination, IIT, which is not in the general joint examination system in India, there are multiple parallel examinations. So students who are interested in IIT have to go through the joint entrance examination, and then, seems to be 2 months later, take the IIT. Since the courses in G are deeper than those in the joint entrance examination, the school will not learn all the knowledge that appears in G. Therefore, cram schools in India are very famous. And based on the family economic level of the children who use strips of ore to practice calligraphy, it is obviously difficult to send them to cram schools. The IIT exam consists of 2 parts, the preliminary test G, main, and the re-examination G, advanced. Both are 3 hours long and only test physics, mathematics, and chemistry. All questions are multiple choice questions or essay questions with objective answers. The preliminary test is an elimination test, and only the re-examination results are considered in the end. The ranking of the results is called AIR or aligned year rank. In 2011, 500,000 people took the entrance exam. In the end, about 10,000 were admitted, and the admission rate was about 2%, which was lower before the expansion of IIT. The top scorer every year will be in the media. The mathematics level of IIT should be higher than that of China, including calculus, etc. I'm not sure about physics and chemistry. The admission to IIT only looks at the test results once. However, there are protected places for specific castes and tribes. Since most of the better schools are English schools, the test paper can be chosen in English or Hindi. Due to the fierce competition, many times the students who are admitted are children from middle class or poorer families, because people who grow up in richer families find it difficult to achieve the level of effort required by IIT. So in the end, after entering the school, many people often speak English very poorly, which is a sign of not having a good education in India. After entering IIT, the department is also selected based on the ranking of the entrance examination. The most prestigious departments are probably the computer science and electronic engineering departments. The entrance examination is more difficult, and all examinations are publicly ranked. This point is also mentioned in 3 Idiots. It is worth mentioning that the ratio of men to women in IIT is very large. There are many jokes about this point. PS. Since it has been interrupted for many days, this week's internal fan has chosen the most popular topic in the group, which is the most popular baby catching an adulterer recently. It is expected that this week's content will be about cheating, and next week's content will be about catching an adulterer. It will still be posted to the all subscribed group on Sunday afternoon or evening. Chapter 306, After a while, Shakru suddenly suggested, "Dear, since we have all arrived in Jodhpur, why don't we drop by Banga Castle to have a look?" Banga Castle is located in Rajasthan, not far from the Mehrangarh Fort. Although its size is not as large as Mehrangarh, its reputation is not at all, because it is one of the 9 weirdest areas in India, and Dumas Beach, Delhi Canton Gate, Heritage Hotel, Ramoji Cinema, Gandhi International Airport and other places are equally famous. The castle was built in 1613. It is said that someone once entered the castle at night and never came back. According to legend, a magician named Zingsha fell in love with a princess and concocted a love potion to confuse the princess into marrying her. The princess saw through his plan and threw the potion to the ground, but this caused a huge stone to crush the magician. Before his death, Zingsha placed a curse on Banga Castle. From now on, no one can live here anymore. Therefore, the Rajasthan government now prohibits tourists from visiting here after sunset and before sunrise, just for fear of another accident. However, the more terrifying and exciting these rumors are, the more fatally attractive they will be to young tourists. Otherwise, no one would visit those horror movies and haunted houses and amusement parks, especially young girls like Amisa. She was extremely interested in this kind of thing, so she hesitated for a moment before nodding and said, "Then let's go over and have a look, but we must come back before dark." Don't worry about this. Even if you want to stay there after dark, the staff will not agree. Starting from Alwar and passing through Siriska Nature Reserve, the weather suddenly changed. The sky was overcast, and it was just past 7 in the evening. Black clouds gradually covered the ancient Aravalli Ridge, as if immersed in each other's bodies. The closer we get to the castle, the weirder the weather gets. Moreover, the road is quite bumpy, and there is no asphalt road for a full 2 kilometers. After passing Agaga, we arrived at Banga territory. The rain began to fall indiscriminately, and it was impossible to see clearly from 500 meters away. At this time, Amisha said a little uneasily, "Brother Shaklu, why don't we go? Isn't it a pity to go back after we are already here? The next time we come to Rajasthan may not be when, and you can see that we are not the only car along the way. There are many people there. Don't worry." Shakru said in relief. Somewhat strangely, the heavy rain stopped when we arrived at the castle, and the lush vegetation inside the castle surprised all the tourists, because it was not like any place in the desert state of Rajasthan. The tourists who come here are basically young people, so everyone has a good attitude. Some even say that this should be a kind of welcome to us because of the abandoned castle and dilapidated ruins. However, Shakru's focus at this time was not here, but the various temples around the castle. He briefly checked Hanuman Monkey Temple, Gopinath Temple, Samswa Temple, Keshafuri Temple, Mangla Devi Temple, Ganesh Temple, and Nevi Temple. How can a place surrounded by so many temples be haunted? Are the ghosts here too fierce, or are these gods being too careless every day? Although Shakru was complaining in his heart, the existence of these temples made him feel a little more at ease. In fact, He was a staunch atheist in his previous life, but now even such ridiculous things as time travel have happened in his own body. He no longer dared to ignore these unknown mysterious powers, perhaps because it was daytime. The Bangar Fort, which is listed among the 9 most terrifying places in India, was not scary at all. A large group of young people walked in along the paths on the ground just like visiting other attractions. In fact, if you ignore the terrifying legends of the castle, the architecture here is still very interesting. Both the market and the palace show the ingenuity of the people under the leadership of Bagandus. When everyone walked to an open space, a young man suddenly said loudly to everyone, "I heard that this is the legendary ruins of a small village that completely disappeared overnight." Before he finished speaking, another person retorted, "These are all rumors. Until now, there is no written data to confirm this. Who knows whether there was a village here before?" The young man who was refuted said unwillingly, "You also said that it can't be proved, so that doesn't rule out the possibility of authenticity. Otherwise, how could this place be called the 9 most terrifying scenic spots in India? And why would people disappear so often? Behind here is the Alvari Mountains, and there are all kinds of wild animals. Who knows if those unlucky guys were snatched away by the wolf, the lion or tiger in the middle of the night? Then, why didn't we see a single beast along the way? There are so many of us. How stupid is that beast to pounce on you? If you don't believe me, just stay here for a day and see if any lions or tigers come to eat you. According to what you said, there are no curses or ghosts here at all. So why did you come all the way to see it?" While the two were arguing, they suddenly heard a scream coming from beside them. "Dear, what's wrong with you? Brother Shakru, please wake up. Don't scare me." When everyone heard the sound and went over to take a look, they saw that it was Amisha who screamed, and it was Shakru who was lying unconscious at the feet of a statue. When everyone saw this, they immediately asked, "What happened to this gentleman?" Amisha replied with tears in her eyes, "I don't know either. He just said that this statue is very interesting." Then he walked closer and looked at it for less than 2 minutes before he collapsed to the ground. No matter how we called him, he couldn't be woken up. 2 of the people who had studied nursing came forward to help Shakru open and close his arms, gave him artificial respiration, and pinched his philtrum, but no matter how they tried, there was no effect. Finally, they had no choice but to send him to the hospital. What made Amisha even more upset was that even in the best hospital in Rajasthan, there was still no effect. Even in the big hospital in New Delhi, it was still the same. This time, it was not just Amisha who was in trouble. The heads of Shakru's major companies, such as Ganges Pharmaceuticals, Polaris Films, and Premier League teams were all panicked because Shakru had just got married and had no children. If he really had an accident, what would the whole company do? P.S. Don't worry, the protagonist will be fine. He will wake up in the next chapter. The reason for doing this is just to take this opportunity to give him some superpowers. Otherwise, it would be easy to die young if he had to deal with so many women all day. Chapter 307 Awakening. At the entrance of the ICU ward of the New Delhi International Hospital, Murdy, the supervisor who had been busy all night, dragged his exhausted body to the smoking area at the nearby stairs. He took out one and threw one to the equally tired Agrawal next to him. He took a sharp sip and then said to Agrawal, "Aja, when do you think the boss will wake up?" Agrawal shook his head and said, "I don't know when the boss will wake up, but I know that if the boss doesn't wake up, then we won't be able to survive the rest of our lives." Murdy frowned and scolded, "What are you talking about? The boss is in such good health. How could he not wake up? Don't say such unlucky words." Then he changed the topic and said, "But even if the situation you mentioned really happens, it's not that bad. Although the boss has no children, Mrs. Amisha is here now. The Patala family behind her has a lot of management talents, and our company has such a good foundation. There will definitely be no problems with the business." I didn't say that the company would have problems. With our monopoly business and 3 factories, as long as the management level is not too bad, we will definitely make money. The only difference is that we make more and less. What I'm worried about is you and me. What will happen to people in the future? Don't forget, who are the people in the Patala family? The castes are not 1 or 2 levels higher than ours. If they really join the company, what will happen to us in the future? Stay. Agruel said worriedly. After listening to Agruel's words, Murder's mood became heavy. After working under Shakru for many years, since most of the employees are from lower castes, he has become accustomed to this kind of working environment. If a group of upper caste managers are suddenly added, according to the rules, even if the higher caste is one person, he is a general manager of his subordinates, but as a low caste person, he still has to be polite and respectful to these subordinates, so this day will really be impossible. This is not the scariest thing. If the company is taken over by the Patara family, then it is very likely that you will not be able to keep your position. After all, no matter how high your position is, you are still an employee of the company, and the boss can fire you with just one sentence. If the boss really can't wake up, according to the law, in the absence of parents and children, the ownership of the company must belong to his wife Amisa, and Amisa will definitely not be able to manage the entire company with her ability, and she will definitely seek help behind the scenes. With the help of the Terra family, once these noble Patlas enter the company, their status will be really in jeopardy. What should I do then? Go to another company? Which company is willing to give such a high position to a low caste person? And which boss can unconditionally believe in himself like Mr. Pandit? Just when company executives such as Murdy and Agruel were worried about their future, Amisha was also very annoyed. However, she was not thinking about the problem that Murdy was worried about. She had not thought about it yet. It was so far away, but a recent rumor made her very angry. Because some people say that the strange disease that Shaklu got this time was actually a poison given by her in order to swallow up Shaklu's assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Otherwise, with Shaklu's good health and such a young age, how could someone who was so fine suddenly become unconscious? And he had just gotten married and received an inheritance? Something happened right after the qualification. The coincidence of this timing makes people unable to help but think of it. Although the Patala family is a big family and has a lot of assets, after all, it belongs to the entire Patala family and is distributed to everyone. It's only about $1 million per person, not to mention that she, a girl, doesn't have the right to inherit. When she heard this rumor just now, Amisha was so angry that she even considered killing people. Seeing her like this, Grandpa Patala repeatedly advised her, "My dear Amisha, don't be like this. Why do you take it so seriously when people spread rumors? Now that Shakru is like this, what will you do if you get angry again?" "Grandpa, can I not be angry when you say this? Who do you think I am? Murdering my husband for property? When did I, Amisa, become such a vicious woman?" Amisa said angrily. Old Patala comforted, "Of course Grandpa knows that little Amisa is not such a person, but rumors are like this. The more you pay attention to them, the more vigorously they spread, so the best way now is to ignore it and concentrate on it. Save poor little Shakru." Although she said this, in her heart, Patala was sighing. No wonder such rumors appeared about this matter. If she didn't know both Amisha and Shakru very well, she might have believed this rumor. After all, the timing of this incident was so coincidental that it was hard to believe. People who are concerned about Shakru's safety are not limited to India. There are also people in China who are worried about whether he can wake up. This person is Luhan. The reason why Luhan was worried about Shaklu's safety was firstly because Shaklu had been kind to him. If Shaklu hadn't let him go and reused him and made him the director of the first factory, he would not have his current status, family, and life. Or, the reason why relatives, friends, peers, and city leaders paid so much attention to him was because he was a major profit and tax owner in the city and the director of a foreign-funded pharmaceutical company. Therefore, Luhan was naturally grateful to Shakru and learned that he was ill. Naturally, you will be worried. On the other hand, Luhan recently had a crazy idea and wanted to discuss it with Shaklu. If this matter can be handled well, it will definitely be a big business that will benefit people and make huge profits. But if Shaklu really falls, then Luhan's business will be completely over. So he now hopes that his boss Shaklu can wake up safely and early. Just when all parties were worried, Shaklu finally woke up. PS. Let me discuss a question with you. In chapter 40, I wrote about the situation of Indian generic drugs. It is legal to buy such drugs in India, but once they are taken out of the country, it is considered smuggling. However, this kind of generic drugs are as effective as patented drugs, but the price is only 1/10 or even several tenths of patented drugs. For example, the famous anti-cancer drug Gleevec from Novartis in Switzerland costs $4,000 for 1 month, while the Indian generic drugs only cost $73. For cancer patients, it is a life-saving drug, so is this kind of smuggling also considered a good deed? If the characters in the book do this kind of business, can everyone accept it? Chapter 308 Good Deeds. Speaking of which, Shakru's awakening process was very dramatic, just like the plot in TVB. When Amisa held his hand and cried, he slowly opened his eyes and comforted Amisa. After that, he continued to fall asleep again. This was not because Shakru was deliberately acting, but because he was really tired and needed a rest. Ever since he passed out in Banga Castle that day, his mind had been like a movie, combining all his past lives and this one. He had gone through all the experiences in detail. Now, although the scary movie was over, he felt that he had spent too much energy watching the movie, so he needed to take a good rest point. When he told the doctor about his strange experience, of course, he had erased his memories of his previous life. The doctor's explanation was that there might be some kind of strange magnetic field in Banga Castle that caused his brain waves to be disordered, leading to the occurrence of this strange disease. Shakru naturally did not believe this explanation. There were too many things that modern technology could not explain, so he would rather believe that this was the curse of Banga Castle. Although the curse was not very logical, the time travel itself was more illogical. So for safety reasons, it's better not to go to places that are too weird with your time traveling body in the future. However, this coma is not without its benefits. First of all, it makes Shakru's memories of his previous life clearer, even many places that he did not deliberately remember in his previous life, such as the names of stores he passed by, advertisements he glanced at unintentionally, the passers-by who passed by each other clearly reproduced it. Another benefit was that a certain important part of his body seemed to have been transformed and strengthened. Of course, he was surprised to find this out after the fact. After learning about a series of things that happened after he fell into a coma, Shakru felt that the person who was under the greatest pressure during this period was his new wife Amisa. Not only was she misunderstood by rumors, but she even failed to have a good honeymoon. However, just when he said he wanted to compensate Amisa for a trip at that time, Amisha resolutely refused. I won't go anywhere. The doctor said that it was going to the weird place like Banga Castle that caused your coma this time. So in the future, you will not be able to go anywhere. I won't allow you to go there anymore. Promise me, brother Shakru. Shakru naturally agreed to this request, which was not a request. After appeasing Amisha, who had lost 5 pounds in a week, Shakru began to inspect various companies under his banner to appease people. Facts have proved that his move was in a timely and effective manner. After he made a circle, all the rumors were disproven and all the worries of Moody and the others were eliminated. The only thing that surprised him was Luhan, the director of the first branch factory. After learning that Shakru had regained consciousness, Luhan flew to New Delhi to visit him. After explaining his condition, Luhan hesitated for a long time and then said to Shakru, "Boss, I have a project that I would like to ask you to help me with. I don't know if it will delay your recovery." Shakru said nonchalantly, "Are you still so polite between us? You have also seen that, although I'm now strictly ordered to stay at home to recuperate, my health has already recovered. I'm getting worse every day. I'm so busy, I'm really hoping that there's something I can use my brain on. Please tell me what the project is, boss. Are you familiar with Gleevec?" Luhan asked tentatively. Shakru shook his head and smiled. "Tell me, I work in a pharmaceutical company, how can I not be familiar with this drug? Although this drug from Novartis in Switzerland is a bit more expensive, it is a miracle drug for chronic myelogenous leukemia, and there is currently no alternative drug on the market that can compete with it or even achieve half of its efficacy. To be honest, although my Virgone is considered a money-making tool, sometimes I look at the Swiss Novartis. I'm a little jealous of this money tree, boss. For a billionaire like you think Gleevec is a bit expensive. Do you know how many ordinary people can afford it? But not eating it means waiting to die. So what do you think of the price of Novartis in Switzerland? Is it too dark-hearted? Luhan said with a wry smile. Shakru's face darkened and he said, Luhan, your mentality is wrong. Although medicines are used to save lives, pharmaceutical companies have never been a charity. They pursue profits. It can't be, because you can't afford it. Just cut the price, or give it to you for free. Do you know how much research and development costs, and time it takes to develop a new drug? The investment involved is beyond your imagination. Such a high investment will naturally be factored into the price of the medicine. Not only that, but the costs of new drugs that failed to be developed should also be included in the drug price, because although the development of these new drugs failed, someone has to pay for it. There is also the need to leave enough profit margin, otherwise it will not be able to stimulate the board of directors and the R/U 0,026D team to continue to develop new drugs. After all, it would be strange if the drug prices are cheap. At the end, he changed the topic. Of course, if you really don't like the price, can you buy the generic medicines here? The efficacy is almost the same, but the price is not a little bit cheaper. Luhan nodded and said, of course I know this. My mother-in-law got this disease last year. I asked Mr. Murthy to help me buy generic drugs in India. The effect is very good, and the price is also very cheap. So I have many my mother-in-law's patients started asking me to help them buy generic drugs, so I thought there was a big business opportunity. Shakru thought about it for a while, and understood Luhan's intention, so he smiled and said, you are not planning to purchase Gleevec generic drugs in India on a large scale, and then resell them in China. Right? But I must remind you, that doing so is illegal. It seems to be either smuggling or counterfeiting. I checked this and it is a crime of selling counterfeit drugs. In China, all unapproved drugs are considered counterfeit drugs, and Gleevec has applied for a patent in China, so even if the generic drugs have no problems with their efficacy, they will never be approved, unless the patent protection period ends. Luhan sighed and replied. Shakru laughed and said, China's patent review and protection are really good. Of course it's good. They all hope to make money from this. Do you know how much Gleevec sells in China, the United States and South Korea? Luhan said angrily. PS. Now I'm back, and I promise that I will never stop updating before 1 million words, so please subscribe automatically. Yesterday's new additions fell to the bottom. Chapter 309. How much money does he have? Well, I really don't know about this. Of course I don't know, Shakru thought. I don't want to buy this medicine, so why study it? A box of Gleevec costs $13,600 in the United States, $17,000 in Hong Kong, China, but only $10,000 in Australia, and more than $9,000 in South Korea, not even $10,000. What I'm talking about here are RMB. And abroad, this kind of medicines are included in the medical insurance system. For example, Australian residents can actually buy a box for only 200 yuan, but do you know how much it costs in China? This is only a month's supply. How many families can afford it? Luhan said angrily. Shakru asked with some confusion. This shouldn't be the case. As far as I know, it seems that many large pharmaceutical companies are cooperating with China. How can the drug prices of partners be so high? Han snorted. Then who knows how the government negotiates with others? And according to my estimation, even if the price negotiated by the government is not high, according to the unspoken rules of the circulation of China's pharmaceutical market, the price will be increased layer by layer until the final figure. I'm not surprised at all. Okay, let's not discuss this kind of thing that we can't change at all. Let's talk about what you plan to do. Shakru waved his hand and said. Luhan pondered for a moment and then replied, to put it simply, I just want to purchase a large number of generic drugs of high-priced patented drugs such as Gleevec from Indian manufacturers, and then get them from China and sell them to those in need with only a small additional handling fee patients, so that I can make a lot of money and do good deeds. You are really thoughtful about making money and doing good deeds. Shakru laughed. Luhan replied with some embarrassment. Don't I feel uncomfortable seeing these patients suffering from pain, but unable to afford medicine? Besides, I can also earn a little to supplement the family income. You are talking as if the salary I offer you is not enough to support the family. Shakru said with fake displeasure. Luhan waved his hands and explained, boss, don't get me wrong. The salary you offer me is definitely at the top level in the country, more than 10 times that of others. But I'm getting married soon, so I don't want to worry about it. Save some money. Shakru thought for a while, and then said in a deep voice, is this idea of yours not unfeasible? However, you must not come forward. Otherwise, you will not be the director of the factory. You understand what I say? I understand. I understand. Don't worry, I have already made arrangements for this. When the time comes, a friend of mine will come forward to open a pharmacy to handle the matter. I'm only providing support behind the scenes, and I will never dare to affect the factory because of this matter. Normal work and the image of the factory. Luhan knew very well what Shakru meant by saying this. Although this matter was indeed a good deed from a certain perspective, it ultimately violated national laws, and his current identity as Luhan was a foreign-owned factory director of the factory, so if he came forward to do this, it would affect the image of the factory if it caused trouble. That's why Shakru said such harsh words. Fortunately, Luhan had already thought about it before he came. Yimei came forward to communicate with the patient, while she just hid behind the scenes. Seeing Luhan's attitude, Shakru felt a little relieved, and then said, okay, I will pass this matter here, but remember that it must not affect the work and image of the factory. As far as the supply here, let me help you negotiate. Try to keep the price as low as possible, so that you can earn more, and the patients can spend less. Shaklu's words made Luhan overjoyed. In fact, the purpose of coming to Shakru today was just to hope that Shakru would not object to him doing this business. Although he could still make this deal without Shakru's approval, once Shakru learned that he was doing business in private without reporting it to him, he would definitely be very dissatisfied and might even fire him. As for hiding Shakru's knowledge from him, that's simply impossible. I still know how powerful Shakru is in New Delhi, not to mention that when I purchase goods, I have to use Gange's name or ask for help. Murthy went to help, so it was better to make it clear to Shakru from the beginning and get his consent. To his surprise, Shakru not only agreed to his approach, but was even willing to help him purchase the goods. You must know that with Shaklu's face and energy, the price for him to purchase the goods would definitely be cheaper than buying it bit by himself. Much facts have proved that Luhan's guess was correct. His original purchase price was nearly 600 yuan per box, but the group purchase wholesale price he got after Shaklu came out was only 150 yuan per box. According to the current domestic market, even if he doesn't increase the price, he can still make a lot of money. After returning to China, Luhan immediately went to Yimei to share the good news. When Yimei learned that the current purchase price was only 150 yuan per box, she was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth for a long time. I want to insert my big dick into it. It took a long time for Yimei to recover, but she still exclaimed, oh my god, your boss is so awesome. You can actually cut the price down so much in one go. If so, then we can really give it away, 150 a box. If you come in and resell it, you can sell it for 1000, which is a lot of money, Luhan boasted proudly. That's right, don't you see who our boss is? He is definitely a pharmaceutical giant in New Delhi. If he personally takes action, how dare Alonso Pharmaceuticals not give him face? Moreover, according to him, he still left a part of the profit margin for the manufacturer. From this, you can imagine how low the cost of this thing is, and how dark the hearts of those grandsons of Novartis in Switzerland are. Hey, dear, since your boss can get such a low-priced source of goods, why doesn't he do this business himself, but let you do it? Yimei suddenly said with a sudden thought. Luhan sighed, and then said, because people don't care about this little money. In our eyes, tens of thousands of dollars can make us excited, but for him, this amount of money is not as much as the interest generated in the bank every day. Moreover, this kind of business is illegal after all. With his status, he will never do anything that damages his image without a particularly large profit. Therefore, he will never do this kind of business anyway. Oh my god, how much money does your boss have? I Don't know how much money he has, but I can calculate for you what I know now. Wolfgang's unique business with a global monopoly can bring in tens of millions of dollars in revenue every year. The British team is said to have more than 10 million every year. There are also film companies, hotels in New Delhi, etc. Although I don't know how much they can make, they must make money, otherwise he would not have to keep them open. With these calculations, he must have at least 50 million US dollars in revenue a year, not to mention that he often does speculative business in the financial market. So how much money do you think he will have? Chapter 310 Golden Trade Winds. That day, Shakru was bored at home watching the first part of Triumph in the Skies, and sighed that he had just finished watching the second part not long before he traveled through time. It was really unpredictable and fickle point. Just as he was sighing about life, Preeti came in and reported, "Boss, someone from the trade department sent an invitation letter to invite you to attend a trade fair held at the end of the year." As she said that, she handed over an invitation letter and documents for this so-called trade fair invitation letter. Shakru can receive it almost every day. If he attends every one, he will hardly have to do anything else in a day, so he just flips through it casually and then arranges a subordinate to go to support him. However, today, as soon as he opened the invitation letter, his expression immediately became very solemn point, because the name of this trade fair is Golden Trade Wind India-China Week 2003. This is the first time that Chinese companies have held activities in India. It is estimated that this is also related to the official visit of Indian Prime Minister Vajpayee to China in June this year. This is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit China in 10 years. Since this matter is related to China, he must go there in person to show his support. So Shakru began to look through the documents of the trade fair in detail. At the end, he suddenly realized that even if this trade fair had no Chinese color, he should go there, because the organizer behind the scenes was the former finance minister Manmohan Singh. Mr. Singh is not a simple person. From 1991 to 1996, he served as the finance minister of the Rao government and carried out unprecedented economic reforms, breaking the shackles that bound India's economic growth and putting India's economy on a track of rapid development. He himself is also known as the father of India's economic reform. However, Shakru valued him for something else. If he remembered correctly, then in next year's general election, Mr. Singh would win the final victory and become the new prime minister. Therefore, you must go to this kind of person's place to show your support and have a good relationship with such a person, which will be of great benefit to your future business and life. After confirming his schedule, Shakru thought about it and called Mukesh again. "Brother, did the people from the Ministry of Commerce send you an invitation to the trade fair at the end of the year?" Wait for me to ask. After 2 minutes, Mukesh said, "Yes, there is indeed such an invitation." Obviously, this matter was not handled by Mukesh himself, but this is normal. Such small matters are usually handled by secretaries, and Shakru was also received by Preeti. You going to this trade fair?" Shakru asked. Mukesh laughed dumbly and said, "Little Shakru, do you think I have time to participate in such boring things now?" Mukesh said this truth because he is busy with a big thing now, and he has no time and energy to do anything else. This big thing is nothing else, that is, the fight for inheritance. Reliance Industries, founded by Mukesh's father Dhirubhai Ambani, is the largest private company in India. It not only controls the development direction of national power, oil exploration, finance, biotechnology, and telecommunications, but also largely influences the entire Indian economy. When Dhirubhai died in July 2002, Reliance Industries had become a veritable business empire in India, with total assets of $16.8 billion. Equivalent to 3.5% of India's GDP, 5% of annual exports, and 30% of the total profits of all private enterprises in India that year. 1 in 4 Indian stockholders bought shares of the group. In 2003, Reliance Industries oil exploration, petrochemical and other businesses were fully profitable, and its market value nearly doubled compared with 2002. At the same time, it successfully implemented a diversified strategy to enter the mobile communications field, allowing Reliance Telecom to seize 21% of the Indian mobile communications market in less than a year and make a profit. That year, faced with this legacy of more than $30 billion, no one would not be jealous, and the most troublesome thing was that Dhirubhai did not leave. A word about the distribution of the legacy when he left. So Mukesh and his brother Anil naturally had to start a protracted open and secret struggle. However, Shakru was very confident that Mukesh would win in the end. First, he knew that Mukesh was the final winner in the previous life. Second, the petrochemical industry, the most important core industry of the Xinjiang group, had been firmly controlled by Mukesh since Dhirubhai became seriously ill. Many large refineries and chemical plants were completed under his personal leadership, so controlling this area basically stabilized the overall situation. So Shakru advised, "Brother Mukesh, I advise you to go to this trade fair. Even if you don't buy anything, just show up and show your support." "Is there any trick in this trade fair?" Mukesh asked doubtfully. "There is no trick in this trade fair. The trick is the organizer behind it." "Organizer? Let me see." "Manmohan Singh. It was actually organized by him, but even if it is him, what? He is not the Minister of Finance now," Mukesh said indifferently. Shakru chuckled and said slowly, "He is indeed not the Minister of Finance now, but he will be the Prime Minister of India soon. Do you think we should give him some face?" "What? He will soon become the Prime Minister of India? How is this possible? Although next year is the election year, even if the Congress party wins, the Prime Minister should be the current chairman Sonia Gandhi. How could it be his turn? What's more, he is a Sikh. There has never been a Sikh Prime Minister." "Okay," Mukesh said in shock. "Just because there was no Sikh Prime Minister before doesn't mean there won't be one in the future. And don't forget that Sonia has Italian ancestry. Just based on this, she can never become Prime Minister. As for why I'm so confident in Mr. Lion, Singh means lion in Hindi, and 3 out of 10 Sikhs are named Singh. Don't forget my prediction skills," Shakru said. "PS. Sonia Gandhi is a woman with a difficult life. Her mother-in-law, Indira Gandhi, was assassinated in 1984, and her husband, Raj Gandhi, was also assassinated in 1991. After that, the entire Gandhi family relied on her to carry the burden. It was not until her son Rahul Gandhi became the chairman of the Congress party in 2007 that she was relieved. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Investment Environment. Mukesh had already experienced the magic of Shakru's prediction skills many times, so he thought about it and said, "Okay, then I will give our future Prime Minister a face and get rid of this golden trade sway." Support. On December 8th, when the trade fair officially started, the personal presence of Shakru and Mukesh attracted great attention from the organizers and all the Indian media present, because although the organizers of this trade fair attached great importance to, but basically all the representatives from various Indian companies came, and only the two of them came in person. At the scene, both of them are absolute heavyweights. Needless to say, Mukesh is the absolute king of Indian petrochemicals. Shakru is also a well-known brand in Indian pharmaceutical companies because of his authority in Indian pharmaceutical companies. Ergon is the only patented drug that is famous all over the world, and other pharmaceutical companies produce basically generic drugs. India's compulsory patents facilitate the production of generic drugs, but it also stifles the development of patented drugs in India. After all, who is willing to spend money and effort to research when you can simply reach out and take them? But then again, if we all pursue borrowingism like this, where will new drugs come from? This is a bit like the current dispute between genuine and piracy in the online literary world. Everyone is looking at the pirated version, so who writes the genuine version? Of course, the two of them just came to show their faces and cheer for each other without signing any contract. However, this was a great deal of face to the organizers. Even Mr. Singh, the organizer behind the scenes, specially invited the two of them to have the opportunity They wanted to have dinner together, and that was what they came for. So naturally they agreed wholeheartedly. Although the two did not sign any contract, the organizers' attention and welcome to them naturally attracted the attention of Chinese companies. After inquiring, they found out that these were two great figures in Indian companies, so all those who were interested in Chinese companies that have come to India for development have begun to study how can they establish a relationship with them. After some investigation, they found that, although it is difficult to establish a relationship with Mukesh, there should be great opportunities for Shakru here, because the Chinese element in him are really so many. Not only do they have 2 branches in China, but they are also proficient in Chinese culture and language. So a week later, Shakru received a call from Merkin, saying that 2 of his friends in the business world were coming to visit him to ask for some advice. For such a favor and free thing, Shakru naturally it was a full promise. The 2 people who came to visit Shakru were both surnamed Wang. They were about 40 years old and both were from Guangdong. They also came to participate in the Golden Trade Wind event. After a few people exchanged greetings for a while, Leo Wang first said, "Mr. Pandit, we are really not familiar with the investment environment in India at all. We would like to ask you to help answer some questions." "No problem. Merkin's friends are my friends. If you don't understand anything, just ask," Shakru said in a very grand manner, and then changed the topic and said, "But to be honest, investment here in India, the environment is really different from other places. So if you want to invest here, you really have to be prepared, Mr. Pandit. I heard that South Korea's POSCO cancelled its long-planned plan to build a factory in your country half a year ago. It is said that it was due to some off-site factors. Is that true?" Leo Wang asked cautiously. Shakru pondered for a moment, and then replied, "To be honest, as an Indian, I shouldn't speak ill of my country, but some problems are indeed facts on the surface, so there is no need to hide their illness and avoid treatment. There are many problems in India's current investment environment, such as poor infrastructure and slow construction, especially the unstable power supply, which is a very troublesome thing. But this is not the most troublesome thing. The government's various approvals are extremely cumbersome and inefficient. It may take several years or even more than 10 years from approval to final implementation of a foreign investment. POSCO's experience is the most obvious example. POSCO originally wanted to build a steel plant, but the land acquisition alone was delayed for several years. In the end, POSCO couldn't afford to delay, so it had to plans to build a factory were cancelled. There was also an Australian company that undertook a highway project contracting project. In the end, it was tortured by the approval and almost collapsed, because after getting the project, it had to register a project office in India, and only after it had an entity could it open a bank account. Because if you don't have a bank account, the Indian owner won't be able to call you, whether it's advance payment or project payment, but the application process for the project office will take 2 years or even longer. In this way, all your expenses in India within 2 years will be, whether it is its own operating costs or the design and construction costs subcontracted to Indian suppliers, the parent company must advance, which brings huge cash flow pressure and financial risks to the parent company. Of course, since it is this business meeting organized by Mr. Singer, the approval process should be better. After hearing Shakru's answer, Leo Wang and Zhao Wang looked at each other, and both felt that Mr. Pandit was really a real person who was rare to meet. His answer to POSCO was similar to the results of his own investigation. So I started to ask the question I really wanted to consult. "Mr. Pandit, which industry do you think is better to invest in India now? Which one is better, power equipment or raw material import and export? Don't do electrical equipment, or in other words, don't get involved in all electricity related industries in India. It's not that the government doesn't allow it, it's mainly because it won't make money, and it may even cost you your life. India's infrastructure industry is very unhealthy now. The reason is that India's current system makes products and services related to people's livelihood too cheap, which makes the entire supply chain of these industries not profitable. For example, electricity prices. Because politicians have to reduce the cost of living of ordinary people in order to win votes, the electricity prices are extremely low, which makes the power grid companies not profitable. If the power grid companies do not make money, they naturally cannot give money to downstream companies, so the entire industry does not make money. Huawei and ZTE are stuck in the investment quagmire in India for this reason. I have talked about the power problem separately in the previous chapter. As for the import and export of raw materials or primary processing, I think it is good and there should be a certain profit margin. But remember that there are hidden costs in doing business in India, and you should be prepared for at least 5%. To be continued. Chapter 312 Mukimiya. Hidden costs? Are they the private fees paid to various regulatory departments? Zio Wang asked tentatively. Shakru nodded and replied, yes, the problem in India is a headache for foreign investors. Even our local businessmen are very troubled, so you can see that I chose to build a branch in China instead of India. In this regard, I have to say that your Chinese government's attitude towards foreign investment and foreign businessmen is absolutely the best in the world. Although Shakru's words of praise, for some reason, they sounded particularly awkward to the ears of the two, so Leo Wang quickly changed the subject and asked, what about the sales of small commodities? I feel that the prices of small commodities in the Indian market are very high. Shakru shook his head and said, it's best not to do this, because this kind of trade must have middlemen according to the agency mechanism, and it is impossible to avoid it. The middlemen will raise the cost, so your profit will be shared. For example, small commodities from Japan are basically sold to Indian traders at a fair price or even at a loss. Then the Indian traders ship the commodities back to India and sell them to national contractors, who then sell them to provincial contractors, municipal contractors, and local contractors. In the end, the price of the commodity actually increases fourfold when it reaches the consumer, but the customer gets the worst product. Therefore, Japanese products have a bad reputation in India, largely because Indian buyers want such bad products. Japan's high-end products cannot be sold to India, not because India does not need them, but because Indian buyers do not want to buy them. So it is best not to do this kind of business, such as the import and export of raw materials mentioned earlier or the biopharmaceuticals I'm doing now. Good projects. For example, India has a lot of advantages in healthcare, and if Chinese companies are willing to package it, they can do very well. India has pure plant soaps, shampoos, and essential oils, without adding any artificial compounds. There are also henna grass and henna powder, which are used for hair dyeing. Poor quality hair dye products will print and dye the scalp, but Indian products can only dye the hair. For projects like this, you can buy a small factory for only a few $100,000. Because the raw materials are cheap, you can register a brand and sell it back home. If Chinese companies themselves make healthcare products in China, they can consider coming to India. For example, Chinese bicycle factories can also go to India, because India currently does not have the technology for bicycles with all aluminum bodies, and Chinese companies can invest in local factories with technology. That can't be done. Can't we bypass these middlemen and contact retailers directly? Shakru thought for a while, and then said, because Indian retailers do not have direct import and export rights, they can only buy goods from Indian traders at high prices. If we can directly connect Chinese suppliers and Indian retailers, it will solve a big problem. E-commerce may be a way, but it is not an e-commerce like Alibaba, but there must be an entity in India, so that retailers without import and export rights can also buy Chinese goods. In the end, Leo Wang decided to invest in a bicycle factory in India. On the one hand, this saves the trouble of approval. On the other hand, although the sales volume of bicycles in China has been decreasing, it is still the main force of transportation in India. Shakru has made a lot of efforts in this, although Leo Wang will definitely not let Shakru help him in vain. Leo Wang's gift is really a bit beyond his expectations, because a beautiful woman was sent to him. However, the excuse was good. During the dinner, Leo Wang pointed at the tall and healthy-skinned beauty and said to Shakru, Mr. Pandit, the host tonight is not me, but this lady. Seeing Shakru's puzzled expression, Leo Wang continued to explain, the lady is a rising star in the advertising industry in Yunnan and a well-known model. She is particularly interested in yoga in your country and wants to come here to study, so she came with us this time. But how can I know her? A yoga master, so I have to trouble you, Mr. Pandit, For this matter, the person sitting next to Shakru also came over and said delicately, "Mr. Pandit, I don't know anyone here, can you help me?" Shakru naturally understood that this was an excuse. What a well-known model, a rising star in the advertising industry. In fact, it was all nonsense. If she was really that good, she would be too busy to make money by performing. So how could she have time to go to India to learn yoga? Isn't this purely a waste of time? So this must be a gift specially given to me by Leo Wang, because he didn't know where he was lost. Full point. Although Shakru understood what was going on, he would not refuse such a gift. On the one hand, refusing such a gift that was delivered to the door was very disrespectful to Leo Wang. On the other hand, he was quite satisfied with this little beauty. At least the height of 170 centimeters was very much to his taste point. So Shakru smiled and said, "That's definitely no problem. Miss, you want to learn yoga, which can also be regarded as promoting cultural exchanges between China and India. I will naturally strongly support this kind of thing. It happens that I know several yoga masters and can introduce you to them. In addition, a good friend of mine has opened a chain of yoga studios in Japan. I can also take you to visit it when the time comes." "Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Pandit. I have to toast you." She stood up and poured wine for Shakru. However, when pouring the wine, she didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional. She pressed her plump breasts against Shakru's arm and even rubbed it provocatively, which made Shakru feel itchy. Point at the following banquet. She made small moves constantly. Her teasing and devotion intentions were obvious, and Leo Wang and Xiao Wang also followed suit. In the end, under the pretext of being too drunk, Leo Wang and Xiao Wang naturally asked Shakru to send her to the room, and Shakru naturally agreed with a smile. Point. After arriving in the room, she pretended to be drunk and threw herself directly into Shakru's arms with her red lips, plump breasts and long legs, which made Shakru, who had already been excited, unable to control himself, and he directly carried her horizontally and walked to the big bed in the room. How about writing this part next week? After the battle, Shakru was comfortable and happy, and he was completely sure of one thing, that is, this lady was not as mature as she appeared, and this little girl must be less than 20 years old. However, in the subsequent chat, Shakru learned a fact that shocked him very much. In 2005, Hong Kong made a comedy movie with a strong Indian flavor. I wonder if you still remember it too. Recommend a book. It is a rare book about the Chinese army that established a country in Indonesia after World War I. This kind of book at least looks more exciting. To be continued. Chapter 313 Himalaya. What? Are you Mukimaya? Shakru asked in shock. Somewhat confused, he asked, "Yes, do you know other girls named Mukimaya?" After calculating her age, Shakru was sure that the 17-year-old beauty in front of him who had just embraced her gracefully was probably the queen of yoga, Mukimaya. Speaking of female yoga stars, the most famous one in China is Mukimaya. She is a Han Yi mixed race father born in Yunnan and her mother is Yi. She has served as the China-India Yoga Goodwill Ambassador since 2010. Entering the public eye, she later became famous after participating in programs such as Jumping More and More Beautiful. She has participated in many activities and recordings of programs, and is known as Asia's most beautiful yoga instructor, yoga's most beautiful woman, and the most beautiful yoga goddess. Of course, the most impressive thing is the porcupine spirit she played in Journey to the West Part 3, fighting the white bone demon. Why don't you develop your career in China? Why do you think of going to India to learn yoga? Shakru asked curiously, while playing with Mukimiya's plumpness. Mukimaya sighed, and then said, "It's not like I can't make it in the country, so I'm going to try a roundabout route under your hands, and see if I can bloom like this in a foreign country." Shakru can somewhat understand Mukimiya's statement, because his Polaris is different from other Indian film companies. Polaris's movies are all aimed at the European and American markets, and the results are pretty good, and even I have won awards before, so if I have a good role in a film that has received high box office or awards in the United States, I can be packaged as an international superstar when I return to China. But in fact, Mukimiya did not tell the truth completely. She also came here for the purpose of making money. because it is really difficult to be popular in China now. But if you are not popular, you cannot make money. And if you want to continue in this industry, you must not be without money. Not to mention anything else. Just talking about her monthly cosmetics, maintenance and clothing expenses cost a lot of money. This is not entirely because she loves beauty or wastes it, but because she has no choice. In fact, beauties, especially beautiful artists, take money and pile it up point because they need to wear makeup every day when walking on stage or taking photos, and often need to wear heavy makeup, which is particularly harmful to the skin and hair quality, so they must have high-end skincare products and expensive maintenance to maintain their condition. Clothes and jewelry are indispensable, otherwise you will be inferior in the eyes of others, and it will be more difficult to win good performance opportunities. This is without hiring professional designers and makeup artists, otherwise the cost will be even greater. In 2003, the mainland entertainment industry had not developed to the level of prosperity in 2016, and money was not that easy to make. It was even harder for fringe people like her, or, to put it bluntly, 18th tier artists to make money. So many people take private jobs secretly, especially food delivery services abroad, which are favored by them. Firstly, they can make more money, and secondly, there is no risk of exposure. However, Mukimiya is still very reserved and self-respecting in this regard, and would not accept such an order easily. This time, she heard that Shakru was the boss behind Polaris, so she agreed to come over. When she saw that Shakru actually being so young and handsome makes me feel even more satisfied, so I take the initiative. Shakru naturally didn't know Mukimiya's complicated inner feelings. He just felt that, since he had already enjoyed other people's services, he would naturally have to pay for them, and this was not a big deal to him, so he was very happy. Said, "I'll see if there is a role suitable for you in the recently filmed films. If not, then I will add one for you in the script." Hearing what Shakru said, Mukimiya immediately threw herself into Shakru's arms and said sweetly, "My dear, thank you so much. You don't know how difficult it is to break out in the country now. There are only a few big budget films every year, but more and more people are squeezed in. It's impossible to become popular if you have a strong backer. It's been 3 years since I was 14, but I still don't see any hope. If there is still no hope, then I will quit and marry a rich man." Shakru sneered at Mukimiya's words in his heart. Once these little girls were discouraged or encountered some setbacks, they would always say to marry a rich man or find an honest man to marry. Do you think rich people and honest people are stupid? Why do you want to be a receiver? Besides, there are only a few girls who have had this kind of experience who can endure the ordinary life of ordinary people. The probability of something happening in the future is really too high. Originally, Shakru just wanted to find a few small roles for Mukimiya in the new drama to be filmed. Unexpectedly, Mukimiya was really lucky because it didn't take long for Mukimiya to actually get one. The opportunity is very suitable for her, and this drama is not cast by Shakru, but Immersed, a New Year masterpiece from Hong Kong's China Star Company. Shakru had seen this movie in his previous life. It is a very rare movie in Hong Kong movies with a strong Indian flavor. The inspiration for this drama came from the film Big Man Has Great Wisdom, co-produced by Wendy Jahu and Johnny To. In that film, there was an Indian who had an incredible bone shrinking skill. It was because of this character that Wendy Jahu became interested in India, and thus the script Himalayan Star was born. The film's authentic Indian style is eye-catching. The Indian magic oil, elephants walking through the streets and alleys, snake blowers, and the magnificent blue psychedelic city in the film all come from real India. Director Wendy Jahu has vividly expressed Indian culture in the film. The most prominent one is yoga, which is known as India's national skill. The arbitrarily twisted limbs make people stunned. The national costumes that best reflect the characteristics of India are also shown on the actors. Cecilia Chung's peacock shape is amazing, and the funny Indian arse and images of other male actors are full of jokes in the film. The film uses yoga as a lead to authentically show the beautiful scenery and long-standing culture of the 1,000-year-old country of India. Director Wei Jia, who also ingeniously combines the picture and color perfectly, allowing the audience to fully indulge in the dreamlike exotic wonders and feel the magical beauty that cannot be conveyed by landscape films. I was born in the troubled times of the Ming Dynasty. To be honest, I don't like books about the late Ming Dynasty very much. I prefer books about the late Qing Dynasty. However, many friends say it's good, so I recommend it. To be continued. Chapter 314. Fighting for a role. This time it was Gong Li who contacted Shakru and Wei Jiahu. Originally, Wei Changhu was worried that he was not familiar with India, and it was difficult to work in the shooting location. He happened to meet Gong Li at a party and talked about this problem. Gong Li immediately told him that she was in India. If you have a good friend, you can entrust him or her to help take care of the film crew. Shakru naturally would not refuse Gong Li's plea. He also admired Wei Jiahu's personality as a director, and there were many actors and singers in this crew that he liked very much in his previous life, such as Liu Qingyan, Cheng Zhongji, Cecilia Chung, Kai Rying, etc. Wu Zhenyu, Chen Kuiyan and others could satisfy his desire to meet celebrities, so they went to greet Wei Jiahu and his party in person. Mr. Pandit, we are really troublesome for you during this filming. Wei Jiahu said this with absolute sincerity. He originally wanted to invite Shakru's Polaris company to invest in the film, but the Chinese star behind it, the boss, didn't agree, so he could only accept Shakru's help without being able to do anything in return. So he felt somewhat guilty. Shakru waved his hand generously and said, "Director Wei, you are too foreign. Miss Gong's friend is my friend, and I have always admired your works, Director Wei, especially Peace Hotel, and I have watched Skinny Man and Woman several times. I have long heard that Mr. Pandit is very familiar with and understands Chinese culture. Today I saw that you are indeed well deserved. You actually know so much about Hong Kong movies." Wei Jiahu praised in shock, not only the works of Director Wei, but also the works of Mr. Liu, Mr. Wu, Miss Zhang, Mr. Cheng, and Mr. Zheng. "I will also sing your love sickness is useless, especially Mr. Zheng," Shakru said with some pride. Due to the deliberate ingratiation of Wei Jiahu and his entourage and Shakru's familiarity with Hong Kong dramas, the atmosphere at the wine table soon became lively. After Liu Qingyan had a glass of wine with Shakru, he asked curiously, "Mr. Pandit, I want to ask you a question. Is it easy to get sick due to the climate here in India? My wife was particularly worried about my visit this time and prepared 2 boxes of food and medicine for me." Shakru thought for a moment and then replied, "How should I put it? The climate and food here in India are indeed very different from those in Hong Kong, so it is easy to feel uncomfortable, but you don't have to worry about these. I just make medicines, it's for business, so I will prepare all your needs in this regard, as well as for food. I will arrange a special Chinese restaurant to deliver lunch boxes to everyone." Cecilia Chung on the side breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's great. I ate in authentic Indian restaurants several times before coming here, but found that I couldn't adapt to it at all. I'm worried whether I can only eat in these few months. I have been relying on instant noodles, and now that I heard Mr. Pandit say this, I feel like I can finally save my stomach." Looking at Cecilia Chung, Shakru felt very emotional. At this time, Cecilia Chung had just become famous with the Roar of the East and there had been no negative news in the future, so she still gave people a very innocent feeling. However, according to the time, it was very maybe he was already involved with Teacher Chen at this time, so Shakru said calmly, "Miss Zhang, don't worry about this, but there seems to be no authentic Cantonese restaurant in New Delhi, only Sichuan and northeastern cuisine. I wonder if you can adapt." Liu, "Cecilia, I'm not talking about you. It's hard to come to India once, so you have to experience the unique customs here. If you are prepared for everything, you might as well not come. Anyway, this time for this drama, firstly, it's for Jiahu's sake, and secondly, I want to take the opportunity to travel to India. So Mr. Pandit, you don't need to take special care of me, just treat me as an Indian." Wu Zhenyu interrupted. The above celebrity remarks are all from behind the scenes footage of this drama, so their credibility should be relatively high. After the dinner, Shakru took the opportunity to send Wei Jiahu back and said to him privately, "Director Wei, I have something small to trouble you about, Mr. Pandit. You are too polite. If there is anything I can do, just say it. I want a role in your play. 3 girls and 4 girls will do. That's no problem at all. I originally planned to ask Mr. Pandit to help me find some local actors. After all, this is an Indian flavored film, and it's impossible to have all Indian actors." Wei Jiahu replied easily, because he had already been mentally prepared for Shakru's request. Everyone is making movies, so naturally they want to find opportunities to praise their own artists. This is a normal phenomenon, not to mention that he really plans to find some Indian actors to add an Indian flavor to the film. What Wei Jiahu didn't expect was that Shakru actually shook his head and said, "Director Wei, no matter what kind of Indian actor you need, I can help you find it. However, the person I want to trouble you is not an Indian actor, but an Indian actor. I'm a mainland actor, so I have to trouble you to customize a role." Although he was a little surprised, Wei Jiahu still happily agreed. "That's no problem, let's do this. You ask her to come to my place tomorrow for her audition, and then I will see which role is suitable for her." "Thank you, Director Wei." After returning to his villa, Shakru called Mukimiya over and said to her, "If there is an opportunity to cooperate with Wei Jiahu, Cheng Zhongji, Wu Zhenyu, Liu Qingwen and Cecilia Chung in a new drama, would you be interested?" Hearing these familiar and star-studded names, Mukimiya's eyes lit up immediately, and she said excitedly, "Of course I'm willing. Even if I play a minor role in their movies, I can still be familiar to the audience. However, their Hong Kong movies have a fixed team. If you can't get in touch, you have no chance at all. Moreover, there are fewer and fewer movies that can gather so many big stars, so once there is such a movie, everyone will squeeze in frantically. The internal staff of others can't be used, let alone a small person like me," Shakru said proudly. "China Star recently organized these people to shoot an Indian-style movie, Himalayan Star. I just received them, and I have already agreed with director Wei Jiahu to reserve a role of the 3rd or 4th female for you. You can audition tomorrow." "Really? Thank you so much, boss. Don't worry, I will work hard and not embarrass you," Mukimiya said excitedly. And then of course it was a night of spring. P.S. I will continue to promote the book I'm live broadcasting in the 3 kingdoms. The author is also a reader of my book and urges me to update it every day in the author group. Chapter 315 Myth. The next day, when Wei Jiahu saw Mukimiya, he immediately understood what was going on. It was obvious that this little actress was a woman raised by Mr. Pandit, but the girl's own conditions were pretty good. Her acting skills were barely adequate, especially since she had some yoga skills, which were useful in the movie, so I was very happy to give her a new small role with a dozen lines and a 5-minute scene point. Although the role is not big, Mukimiya is already very satisfied, because as she said to Shakru last night, there are fewer and fewer large-scale productions with big names gathered now. And she can have the opportunity to squeeze in. You're lucky enough. There's no need to be picky about the size of the character. The one who was most worried about this matter was actually Kaya Rying. When she first heard the news, she had been very worried about whether this girl would squeeze out her position. After all, she was not particularly popular at this time, but after seeing her mother after Kimiya's acting skills, she felt relieved, because with Wei Jiahu's style of conduct and strict requirements for the film, it seemed that her position was saved. During this time, Shakru had nothing serious to do, so he followed him through most of the filming. During this period, he got along very well with Wei Jiahu, Liu Qingwen and Cheng Zhongji. Even when the filming in India ended, Wei Jiahu went out of his way to talk to him. Shakru said, "Mr. Pandit, I really hope to have the opportunity to formally cooperate once in the future. When a large-scale production project is approved next time, I will inform you and strive for you to become a shareholder." Although he knew that Wei Jiahu had good intentions, Shakru was not interested in his proposal at all, because he knew very well that the once glorious Hong Kong film industry was on the decline, and it was difficult to recover, so he might as well stick to himself. "Where is Polaris?" So he shook his head and said, "Hong Kong's film market is already very stable or fixed, so I won't get involved. If director Weddy has the time and interest, he can come to Polaris, and let's collaborate once. Weddy. Jia thought about it carefully and then replied, well, Mr. Pandit, the film produced by your Polaris company is too Hollywood style. I can't control such a film, director. Weddy, you have misunderstood. Although Polaris currently focuses on the European and American markets, this is only a temporary situation. I will try to develop another huge market in the future. Shakru explained. Oh, where is the huge market? The mainland market. I firmly believe that with the economic development of the mainland and the improvement of people's living standards, the mainland market will be the largest film market in Asia in the future. Polaris is limited by the composition of the actors, so it can only be tested on a small scale, but director Weddy can really show off his skills. Although Weddy Jahu did not believe in Shakru's judgment on the future film market, he was very satisfied with Shakru. Therefore, when others asked, after returning to Hong Kong, they were full of praise for Shakru. This sparked another heavy hitter to collaborate with Shakru. Mr. Pandit, I have a friend who wants to film a film in India. However, it's difficult to negotiate this scenic spot. We don't even agree with it, so I want to ask you for a favor. Weddy Jahu took the initiative to ask Shakru made the call. Oh, which scenic spot is so unreasonable? Shakru asked curiously. Weddy Jahu glanced at the note in his hand and then replied, Disha Holy Mountain, Disha Temple and the tomb of the Holy Emperor Sha. When he heard that it was these three places, Shakru couldn't help but sigh in his heart. No wonder they didn't agree. These three places are all places with extremely strong religious colors. They couldn't be settled with money alone, so he had a headache. He said, Director Weddy, who is this master? He chose such a difficult location for the scene. Weddy Jahu said in agreement, yes, I told him the same thing. Even if you want the scene to be real, there is no need to find these scenic spots that are not easy to operate. There are not many places with good scenery, not to mention that the ones you want are generally it's a long shot, and the close shots are all made with props. I'm not familiar with the three places here, but I know that the other place he wants to visit, the Terracotta Warriors and Horses of Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum, is even more difficult to negotiate. And even if he agrees, how much will he lose from that day's tourism? There is absolutely no need to invest in this. Terracotta warriors and horses from the mausoleum of the first emperor of Qin. Shakru couldn't help but exclaimed when he heard this. In his previous life, he had traveled to Zion and knew how many tourists there were at the Terracotta Warriors and Horses Museum. This number in one day is really hard to imagine. Of course, this also has something to do with the time he went. He went during the summer vacation. It is estimated that there will be fewer people there at other times, but it is definitely not a small number. Thinking of this, Shakru suddenly had an idea and asked in a low voice, Director Weddy, is your friend reliable? Isn't he taking this opportunity to launder money? In the film industry, from 100 years ago to the present, there has been no end to the shadow of money laundering, because using movies to launder money is too convenient and too simple. For example, in order to shoot a scene of a palace explosion, I first built a simple palace and then blew it up, so a large amount of investment and cost came out. As for whether I actually built the palace, how do you know? Anyway, it was blown up, and I should pay taxes, so a sum of black money was laundered. This is just one of the methods. There are also money laundering with box office and actor salaries. There are many methods. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many extremely bad movies with huge investments every year. Those investors are not stupid. How could they throw money into the water? They are all laundering money while picking up two young girls or handsome guys. Hearing what Shakru said, Wei Cafe hurriedly explained, Mr. Pandit, don't worry, it's definitely not money laundering. This movie is a new movie invested by director Tong Chili and Jackie Chan. The planned investment is 160 million Hong Kong dollars. With their reputation, you should be relieved, right? A new movie by Tong Chili and Jackie Chan. It will also be filmed in India in the Terracotta Warriors. Shakru pondered for a while and then suddenly asked, Director Weddy, you are not talking about the myth, right? Wei Cafe asked in surprise. Hey, Mr. Pandit, how did you know? Director Tong just decided on the title the day before yesterday. PS. It's a book. The name is The Rise of the Sino-Japanese War. To be honest, I don't dare to click on this book. Can you imagine that an 8-month-old child can sit down and discuss philosophy with Li Hongzhang? Anyway, I don't dare to imagine it. If you think this is not a poisonous point, you can go and read it. Chapter 316 Sisters. Of course I know the title of Shakru's Indeo, and I can even sing the theme song, but of course I can't say that, so I can only say carelessly, oh, I also heard it from a friend accidentally. It is said that this film is their Kim Hee-sun in the drama. Yes, I specially paid a high price to invite her here. Why is Mr. Pandit interested in her? When Ijahu asked with a smirk, Shakru shook his head and said, no, I'm not very interested in Korean women. Shakru told the truth. There are definitely no more than 10 Korean female stars that he can match. Then the conversation between the two people completely changed. Maybe when Ijahu also heard what Shakru meant and didn't want to help. He understood this because the difficulty of this matter was indeed not small. It was as simple as receiving Ijahu before. In fact, Shakru really didn't want to help, but he soon changed his mind. On this day, Mukimiya suddenly flew to New Delhi to find Shakru. Mukimiya now is very different from the time when she was so depressed that she had to rely on takeaways to make money. Although she was only in Himalaya Star, she has a small role in the mix, but it may be Ijahu's deliberate cultivation, or it may be the yoga skills she has shown, so she has been cast in many films recently. Although she does not have one female lead or two female leads, she is much better than before, so he rarely comes to New Delhi to accompany Shakru. After some passion, Shakru asked while playing with Mukimiya's breasts, why did you suddenly think of coming over to accompany me today? I miss you, Mukimiya said in an elegant voice. Shakru patted her casually and said with a straight face, don't fool me, get down to business quickly. Seeing Shakru's attitude, Mukimiya could only say seriously, boss, I heard that Tang Chili and Jackie Chan are looking for you to cooperate in their new movie. What kind of cooperation? They just have some trouble with the filming and want to ask me for help. At this point, Shakru suddenly reacted, I know, you came to me because you came to me as a co-writer, because you thought of this film also playing a role in the play. Mia nodded repeatedly and replied, yes, this is Jackie Chan's drama. Every one of his dramas has extremely high box office and great influence. Moreover, this drama also specially stars the most popular female actor in Korea. Star Kim Hee-sun has been invited, so this will definitely be a movie that shocks the whole of Asia. If I can get a role in this movie, my net worth will definitely go up a notch. Boss, you must do it this time. Help others. Seeing Mukimiya's appearance, Shakru felt a little unhappy. He liked girls who were motivated, but he didn't like girls who always relied on themselves to climb up. I can help you and push her. You can do it once, but I can't push you every time. You have to work hard yourself. In this regard, Miranda Kerr has done a very good job. So Shakru frowned and said, but this time they are looking for me. It is indeed very difficult, because they actually want to shoot the scene in the holy mountain of Disha and the ancient tomb. Where is that place? It is a holy place for Hindus. How can I leave it to a bunch of movie makers? Even my own movie company has never been there to scout scenes, let alone a bunch of foreigners. It's precisely because of the difficulty that this can show your ability, boss. As long as you help them solve this problem, wouldn't it be natural for them to ask for a role? Maybe even the second female lead role can be offered. Yeah. Mukimiya said excitedly, forget it, this matter is too troublesome. I'd better find you a role in another play. When Ijahu is said to have a big production, Shakru still refused. Originally, Mukimiya wanted to fight for it by acting coquettishly, but when he saw Shakru's face, he was cautious and said nothing more, because she knew very well that she was just one of the many women in Shakru, and not even a formal woman, just a casual. It's just a show. It's not easy for him to help himself to this point. If the request is too much, he will probably make this guy angry. In the end, he will be the unlucky one, but he misses such a person in front of him. It was a great opportunity, but she felt unwilling to accept it. Therefore, when Mukimiya returned to the hotel, where she was staying in New Delhi, her face was quite ugly. When her sister Mukiden saw her like this, she immediately knew that things might not go well, so she stepped forward and asked, "Sister, what's wrong?" The Indian didn't agree. Mukimiya said angrily, "None of these men are good. They will agree to anything before you get them. Once they get you into bed, they won't take you seriously. I worked so hard to please him just now, but he still said it was too embarrassing. I'm annoyed. It's not easy to operate. I would rather find me roles in 2 other dramas than help him with this. But if this matter is not troublesome, I still have to fly all the way to India to find him. I have recommended several commercial performances for this matter." Kiden echoed, "Isn't it? Not to mention the characters in 2 other dramas. Even 10 movies cannot compare with this myth. This is a superlanup of Tangeli, Jackie Chan and Kim Hee-sun, which is enough to open up the mainland. Hong Kong and South Korea and even the whole of Asia are great. If you miss this opportunity, you don't know when you will meet her again next time. Xiaoya, why don't you try again and use all your tricks? That's how men are, as long as they can't live without you in bed. I will naturally work hard to help you under the bed, but I don't have any hidden tricks, sister. You don't know how many women he has. There are even women who specialize in making love action movies in Japan. No matter how hard I work, I can't compare to these professionals. So I feel that he and I are just trying something new. Once the novelty wears off, he will have no interest." Mukimiya said depressedly. Mukiden pondered for a while, then frowned and said, "That's troublesome. Although we have met several directors and producers recently, in terms of strength and connections, they are still not as good as this Indian. No, we still have to think of a way to take him down." "Yes, sister, I'm in a critical development period now. If I don't seize the time to jump up in these 2 years, then the previous efforts will be in vain, and I can only muddle along in the future." Before she finished speaking, Mukiden suddenly stomped her feet and stood up and gritted her teeth and said, "Xiaoya, don't worry, sister has decided for you. Sister, I will go all out. P.S. Recommend the Prime Minister of the poor family Hongxi prosperous era. Wise kings and wise ministers. The south of the Yangtze River is full of singing birds and dancing, and the spring breeze is intoxicating." After a dream of 100 years, Zishen traveled back to a poor family in Uiao City, determined to enter the cabinet and become the chief minister. After years of hard study, he passed the imperial examination. From then on, Mr. Z embarked on a magnificent journey in the officialdom. Chapter 317 Self-Created Brand. "Sister, what are you going to do?" Although Mukimiya had some ideas in her mind, she still asked in shock. "It's not that I want to do something, but that we sisters want to do something together." Mukiden corrected. "The 2 of us?" Mukimiya was really confused this time. She originally thought that her sister was planning to sacrifice herself to fulfill her wish, but now it doesn't sound like that is the case. "Xiaoya, didn't you say that you don't have any advantage compared to other Indian women? But if you add your sister and me with your money, we 2 sisters can serve him together. He must enjoy such enjoyment in other places. Women shouldn't be able to get it, right?" Mukiden explained lightly. This time Mukimiya was really shocked and said in a stunned tone, "Isn't it right, sister? Let's go together." Mukiden sighed and then said, "Yes, what else should I do? You told me before that this Indian likes girls with tall legs and long legs, but your sister and I don't have this advantage. Even if I'm willing to, if you offer it yourself, others may not take it seriously, but if you are included in it, it will be different. How can a man resist the temptation of 2 sisters? So I think this is the best solution to this matter at the moment." "Good idea, sister. I'm sorry, it's Xiaoya's fault for letting her do such a thing." Mukimiya cried. While hugging her sister, Mukiden patted Mukimiya and said, "Xiaoya, don't be like this. Our family is counting on you now. Only if you are well will our family be well, so don't have any scruples. We must do it tomorrow night. Do your best and take down this Indian in one fell swoop." Just when the 2 sisters were discussing dedicating themselves together, Shakru was attending Manmohan Singh's dinner. He had developed a relationship with the future prime minister since the last golden trade wind. In the following time, Shakru Ryuban was looking for various opportunities to deliberately make friends with him. Although the relationship was not very close now, it could at least be said to be an acquaintance point at this time. The Indian general election was in full swing, but judging from the momentum, the victory of the Congress party was almost a foregone conclusion. So Shakru took the initiative to raise a glass to Manmohan and said, "Congratulations Mr. Singh. It seems that there is no longer any suspense about the victory of your party." Manmohan raised his glass with a smile on his face and responded, "It's hard to say until the last minute, but if this is what you predicted with your prophecy, Mr. Pandit, then there really is no suspense." After a while, Shakru found a private opportunity and said to Manmohan, "Mr. Singh, who do you think will be the new Prime Minister if your party wins this time?" "Of course it's Ms. Sonia, there should be no doubt about it, but the problem is that the outcome I predict is not that Ms. Sonia will become the new Prime Minister." Manmohan asked in surprise, "No way. After all this, can the Democratic Party make a comeback?" Shakru shook his head and pretended to be mysterious. "The Democratic Party did not make a comeback. The Congress Party won. However, it is not Ms. Sonia who becomes the Prime Minister, but you, Mr. Singh." "Mr. Pandit, you are joking." I was a little shocked at first, but after thinking about it carefully, I thought it was not impossible. After all, Ms. Sonia is of Italian descent. It would be difficult for her to pass the test just because of this. After all, there has never been a foreigner in the history of India who has become the Prime Minister. There is a precedent, so Mr. Singer, you don't have no chance. There is indeed no precedent in the history of India for a foreigner to be the Prime Minister, but there is also no precedent for a Sikh to be the Prime Minister," Manmohan said with a self-deprecating smile. "Relatively speaking, the Sikh Prime Minister is relatively easy to accept. I think it's better for you to fight for it. If there is anything you can do with me, just ask." Manmohan pondered for a long time and then said, "Then I will lend you some good words." Then he turned and left point. Although Manmohan didn't say anything more, Shakru was already very satisfied, because as long as he didn't sternly refuse, it meant that he was tempted, and it was impossible for him not to be tempted by such a thing. After all, politicians who don't want to be the Prime Minister are not as a good politician. Which ambitious and capable person is willing to be someone else's assistant without thinking that he will one day be in power? What's more, Manmohan in history has already succeeded. Anyway, Shakru firmly refused to believe that Sonia would give up her position to him for no reason. There were so many people in the Congress party, why should she give it up to a Sikh? There must be something going on here. For Shakru, no matter whether Manmohan asked him for help next, at least he had successfully finished standing in line, so he was in a good mood for a while. So Dang Mukimiya invited him to the hotel in the afternoon to study a new play. I agreed very happily. But when he arrived at the hotel where Mukimiya was staying, he was still a little surprised because there was actually a woman in the room besides Mukimiya, which made him a little confused. Didn't this girl find him just to have sex with him? Just when Shaklu was thinking wildly, Mukimiya took the initiative to introduce, "Boss, this is my sister Mukidand. Sister, this is the noble man in my life, Mr. Shaklu Pandit, the boss of Polaris." Hearing Mukimiya's introduction, Shakru couldn't help but start to look at Mukidan. Although she was a little shorter and her face was a little rounder than her sister Mukimiya, she looked pretty good. Of course, this also confirmed from one side that Mukimiya must have had plastic surgery. Although he thought so in his heart, he still said politely, "Hello, Miss Muki. I have always heard from Miya that she has a sister. Today I see that she is indeed a great beauty like Miya. I wonder where you are now." "I am now Miya's assistant, but in a few years I plan to try to create a clothing brand myself to promote our embroidery culture." Mukidan answered a little nervously. Shakru nodded and said, "Well, this is a good idea. Clothes with ethnic characteristics can easily attract everyone's attention, and in my impression, the ethnic costumes are very beautiful and distinctive. Mr. Pandit, the clothes I designed are more distinctive than traditional clothes. Do you want to see them now?" Mukidan said, biting her lip. "Oh, do I have a chance to see it now? That's great." Shakru said this just to please Mukidan, but when Mukidan and Mukimiya came out, after changing their clothes, He was completely shocked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Special Holiday. In Shakru's impression, the clothing of the Yi people should be composed of embroidery, tassels and various complicated and exaggerated silver ornaments. However, when he saw the sisters Mukimiya changing clothes from the bedroom, he was suddenly surprised. My eyes almost dropped to the ground, and I wondered in my heart, is this Yi costume? It's really sexy. I saw the two sisters walking out wearing thin and see-through embroidered white gauze. The thin white gauze could not cover the snow white skin underneath. The hanging tassels fluttered as they walked, seeming to block, and yet nothing is blocking them, which makes people sincerely hope that a gust of wind will blow them all up at this time, and a few delicate flowers are embroidered on key parts to barely cover them. The most exaggerated thing is that this kind of clothes has sloping shoulders, and he is wearing nothing underneath. In other words, a towering mountain peak is directly exposed to the air, which really makes Shakru stunned. Just when Shakru's eyes were wide open, Mukimiya walked up to him, turned around lightly, and then asked, "Boss, do you think the clothes designed by my sister are good looking?" Shakru swallowed, and then asked hesitantly, "Is this the Yi costume you want to launch? How is it possible to launch this kind of clothes? Who dares to buy it? This kind of clothes is specially prepared for you, boss. I designed it with inspiration from the traditional festivals of our Yi people." Mukiden replied with a smile. "Festival? The Yi people still have such a festival?" Shakru asked in surprise. In fact, the Yi people did once have such a festival, but it was very popular and had been cancelled long ago. Festival is a celebration of the traditional culture of the local Yi people in Ijia Town, Shuangbei County, Yunnan Province Yi Autonomous Region. Every year during the Ghost Festival, which falls on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of July in the lunar calendar, in addition to burning paper, to pay homage to good people in addition to brothers, men and women who come to the town must abide by the rules of the festival, as long as they appear. If they are men, they should be touched happily, and if they are women, they must accept being touched happily. Some people once planned to revive this very tempting holiday tradition in order to revitalize the tourism industry, but the local government failed. Alas, this is such a regrettable thing. The great cause of revitalizing national culture has been ignored by these pedantic officials. It's ruined. However, at this time, Shakru no longer has the mind to care about revitalizing national culture, because this is the first time he has enjoyed the service of his biological sisters. The sisters Mukimiya and Mukiden can be considered complete today. They risked their lives and played countless tricks together. Coupled with the taboo stimulation of sisters flying together, Shakru's pleasure greatly increased. After a full 2 hours of tossing, he took a short rest. Seeing that Shakru was very satisfied, Mukimiya took the opportunity to act coquettishly and said, "Boss, please help me think of a solution for the myth thing." It was Shakru who was in a good mood and replied happily, "I will go to Minister Singh tomorrow. He can handle this small matter with just one phone call." In fact, Shakru promised Mukimiya at this moment not only today. He was very satisfied with the service provided by the two sisters. Another point was that he could use this incident to deepen his relationship with Singer again. Sometimes it was easier to increase friendship by asking for help than by doing things for others. Seeing that Shakru agreed so happily, Mukiden rolled his eyes and stepped forward and said in a sweet voice, "Boss, please do me a small favor." "What, you also want to join the mythology crew?" Shakru asked somewhat displeasedly. Mukiden shook his head and said, "No, Xiaoya and I have different dreams. She likes acting, and I prefer designing clothes. So I want to ask the boss to help me open a design studio." Hearing this request, Shakru felt less unhappy. After all, for him, a problem that can be solved with a little money is not a problem. So he replied happily, "This is definitely no problem. And I know many big names in the fashion industry, such as the editor-in-chief of Vogue and Supermodel Miranda. So as long as your design is good, it will definitely be promoted to the world." At the end of the sentence, Shakru suddenly laughed. Of course, a fashion festival like today requires a lot of design, but it is only for our internal use, and is not allowed to be spread to the outside world. Did you hear that? As expected by Shakru, the next day he approached Manmohan Singh and told him that a friend of his had trouble filming at the scenic spots. Singh immediately called the persons in charge of several scenic spots. In one day, the whole matter will be solved satisfactorily. Of course, Shakru also owed Singh a favor, but Shakru was eager for this at the moment point. When Walijahu learned that Shakru had solved the problem of filming in India, he was very happy to go to Tangeli to claim credit for Shakru, and also bargained over the role of Muki Miaya. Finally, Tangeli agreed to give Eliusahu's role of Menki to his mother. It's Miaya, but Shakru has to help him find a suitable candidate for Samantha, an Indian girl. The reason for such a requirement is that Tangeli's requirement for this role is a sexy, open, and beautiful Indian girl. However, due to the tradition and censorship system in the Indian film industry, discussed in the previous chapter, there is no female character at all. The actor took the role, so Tangeli left this problem to Shakru. In fact, Shakru was a bit confused about the selection of this person. Even though he had a film company under him and many actresses, he really couldn't find anyone to play this role. After all, everyone had to continue to work in the Indian film industry in the future. In the end, it was Rajkumar who helped Shakru come up with an idea to find Indian actors who had made their way overseas. So in the end, Malika Sherawat, the first Indian actress to appear on the cover of Playboy, was selected. But what Shakru didn't know was that it was actually her who played this role in her previous life. So this was an inadvertent return to the right track of history. P.S. Last month, due to the wedding and travel, the update situation was terrible. Now it is a new month. I hereby promise to update at least 100,000 words in September. So please rest assured to follow and subscribe. And in the middle of the month, I will explode for one day to celebrate an important day in this book. As for the specific day, I will tell you then. PS2, taking everyone's suggestions, the protagonist of the next plot will honestly develop in India, and there will be no domestic plots. Chapter 319. The Indian political scene at the beginning of 2004 can be said to be in turmoil. After several months of fighting between the Congress Party and the People's Party, the Congress Party won the 14th Lok Sabha election in India in 2004. On May 15th, all members of the Congress Party passed a motion to elect Sonia as the leader of the Congress Party's parliamentary group. On May 16th, the Indian National Congress Party and its allies unanimously agreed that party leader Sonia should be the Prime Minister of the new Indian government. In this way, Sonia, who was born in Italy, will become the first non-Indian leader in Indian history and the fourth Prime Minister of the Gandhi family. However, just when it was almost certain that Sonia would become Prime Minister, a wave of opposition to foreigner Sonia becoming Prime Minister was brewing in the opposition camp and other social classes. Finally, Sonia chose to give up on the 18th. At an emergency meeting held by the Congress Party that night, she stated in a non-negotiable tone that being Prime Minister was not her dream, and her first priority was to establish a stable government for India. Subsequently, former Finance Minister Manmohan Singh was recommended as Prime Minister. Therefore, on May 19, 2004, Singh became the first Sikh Prime Minister in Indian history and was officially sworn in on the 22nd. At this time, Shakru was not paying attention to the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, for whom he took the initiative to show his support in front of the TV. Instead, he was talking to a young man in Hong Kong. This young man's name was Chetan Bhatt, who is currently the main occupation as a professional investor in an international bank. Of course, Shakru came to him not because he needed his help in investing. For this, Shakru believed that he was the best investment advisor. Shakru came to Bhatt because he had just published a book. The name of this book is 5 Points Man. You may not be familiar with this name, but if you change it to the name of the movie adapted into 3 Idiots in Bollywood, everyone will be familiar with it. For Bhagat, Shakru's invitation made him extremely excited. After sitting down, he was so excited that he stuttered and said, "Mr. Pandit, it is really an honor for me to meet you today. You know, you have always been my idol. Although your investment operations are not many, you are extremely accurate every time and can be regarded as a model in the industry. What Bhatt said was definitely true to his heart. Although Shakru rarely makes investments, he is quite famous in the investment or simply speculation circle because there are many people who succeed in speculation, but only one succeeds every time. It's so rare, and Shakru is a winner who succeeds every time. In addition, Shakru is also an Indian and about the same age as Bhatt, so he will naturally be regarded as an idol by Bhatt. Shakru was a little surprised by Bhatt's enthusiasm, but he still replied very politely, "I had inside information before, so I dared to take action. There is no way for a professional like you, Mr. Bhatt." Then he changed the topic and said, "Mr. Bhatt, I read your new book 5 Points Man just published. I think your book is very interesting and very suitable for adapting into a movie, so I thought, let's talk to you about the script transfer rights. In fact, there is no need for Shakru to come in person for this kind of script acquisition work. Rajkumar can just come and talk about it. After all, Bhagat is not a big writer now, but Shakru considers that Bhagat's future works will be. It was very suitable to be adapted into a movie and was especially popular among college students. So I planned to establish a long-term relationship with him. So Shakru personally came to Hong Kong. Do you think my book can be adapted into a movie?" Bhatt was obviously surprised. Shakru nodded and said, "Yes, I think the campus plot and the education system issues reflected in your book should be loved by many college students and audiences who have had college experience, so I think it is okay. Give it a try." "Sorry, I always thought that the themes of our Indian movies could only be love and gangsters. Haha, that's a traditional movie, but the films produced by Polaris Film Company are all aimed at overseas markets, so they are different from traditional movies." Bhatt suddenly realized, "Oh, Polaris, I know. I like both Bandit Queen and Black Demon very much. It is indeed different from traditional movies, but it is really true that you think so highly of my book. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not just optimistic about this book. I think Mr. Bhatt has a very high talent in literary creation, especially in the direction of youth struggle. Your level is much higher than other domestic writers. Maybe it's also about your study and work experience." Shakru's words are not nonsense. Chetan Bhatt is considered a top student. He was admitted to the best school in India at the age of 17. The Indian Institute of Technology, the background of Three Idiots in Hollywood, is actually this school. At the age of 21, he was admitted to the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, to study for a master's degree in business administration, and won the title of Best Graduate. After graduation, he joined the banking industry and worked in well-known financial institutions such as Goldman Sachs and Utrecht Bank. Well, I also feel that writing about the struggle of young people is very fulfilling. To be honest, I'm currently imagining a story with cricket as the background. The protagonists are still 3 people, 3 who like to play cricket. The experience of young people starting their own businesses and pursuing their dreams in Ahmedabad, the largest city in the western Indian state of Gujarat. This subject is very good. I support you to write it. I can even order the film rights of this book now." Shakru said this because he had read the novel called The Three Stakes of Life. When this book was first released, it created a sales miracle in the history of Indian literature, selling 500,000 copies. Of course, this may also be related to the status of cricket in India. "Okay, then I will do my best to write this book well." Bhatt nodded and replied, and then said a little embarrassedly, "Mr. Pandit, if there is a chance, can you please give me some advice on investment skills? It's not about skills, but we can study and learn from each other." Originally, Shakru didn't want to agree to this request. After all, he couldn't compare with professionals like Bhatt who were born as academic masters in investment and financial management. But when he saw Bhatt's idol worship eyes, his little vanity was satisfied a little, so he decided to give him some advice at an appropriate time. But he still thought it would be better for Bhatt to write books honestly. Chapter 320, 40-year-old college student. After getting Bhagat's authorization, Shakru returned to New Delhi, then found Rajkumar, handed him the book and said, "Rajkumar, have you read this book?" Rajkumar took it and took a look at it without knowing why, then nodded and replied, 5 Point Man, I have read it. This book is now selling like hotcakes. It is very interesting and makes people interested in reading it. Recalling those nostalgic things from my college days when I was studying in 1988, Shakru is not surprised by Rajkumar's reaction because in his previous life, Rajkumar became famous through the movie Three Idiots in Bollywood, and he himself liked this book very much. So Shakru continued, "What do you think would happen if this book was adapted into a movie?" Rajkumar thought for a long time and then replied, "Well, this subject matter is quite new and the adaptation should be good and at least it should be very attractive to young people. However, this book clearly criticizes the current education system and Indian Institute of Technology. Will this work?" The word criticism is used too strongly. At most, it means revealing and ridiculing. And even if it is criticism, what does it matter? The films we made before did not criticize much more serious things than this. In the end, it still passed the review. The big deal is no need for the domestic market, Shakru said disapprovingly. Rajkumar thought for a while and felt that this was indeed the case. His company had even photographed the Bandit Queen, so what else could he not dare to photograph? However, he soon thought of another question. "Boss, but what if it would be difficult to find actors for this movie, especially the male lead? The role of Rancher is quite a test of an actor's skills, but the problem is that it is difficult for young actors to have such acting skills. After all, this requires accumulation and training, unless they are child stars, but child stars have no experience in college life, so I couldn't find the right actor. About this issue, I have already considered it. I think Amir Khan from our company is very suitable for this role." Old God Shakru replied thoughtfully, "Amir Khan? Boss, I don't deny that Amir is a good actor, but the problem is that he is almost 40. Is it appropriate for you to ask him to play a college student who is less than 20 years old?" "Rajkumar," he said with a bitter look on his face. "Age. He's a little older, but he looks young. People who are unfamiliar with him can easily mistake him for a young man in his 20s. Shakru was very disapproving. In his previous life, Ami played this role. "I was over 40 when I was there, but I still performed well. But now I'm not even 40, so it makes no sense that I'm not performing well now. Boss, how about I ask Amir to see what his opinion is? If he is very confident, he can also use his words. If he doesn't want to act, then we can find someone else." Kumar thought about it for a while and then said, retreating point originally, he thought Ami would not accept this role. After all, the age difference with him was too big. At first, Ami Khan did not want to accept this role. But after he read the novel, he immediately came to Rajkumar excitedly and said, "Rajkumar, this novel is really wonderful and the role of Rancho is also great. Don't give it to others, but give me this opportunity. Amir, don't you think the gap between this character and you is a bit big? You are almost twice as big as Rancho." Rajkumar asked with some confusion, "So, what? I look young?" Amir Khan said in a matter-of-fact tone. Hearing this, Rajkumar almost vomited blood. How come Amir and his boss were almost as shameless in what they said? "Amir, are you really confident that you can play this role well?" Rajkumar asked, still unsure. Amir Khan nodded firmly and said, "Don't worry, I will do my best to interpret this role well. If you agree to let me play, then I will start to figure out the role from now on and try to get into the state in advance." Although Rajkumar doesn't understand why Amir attaches so much importance to this role, but since he is so confident and willing to spend so much energy in preparation, it is better to forget about him. After all, his acting skills and professional attitude are still in my mind. There are many, and this is what the boss means. There is no need to hard top at point. In fact, this is because Rajkumar does not understand Amir Khan. In essence, Amir Khan is a person with a strong sense of social responsibility. He has his own ideas and attitudes towards many social situations, but there is currently no room for him to express himself. Just space. In 2011, he founded a program called Real Want Interview, which exposed various issues in Indian society sharply, reflecting the living conditions and true emotions of people from different walks of life in India, and bringing out the dark side of society. Put it in the spotlight, in front of people. I will describe this program at length in the following chapters. It is my favorite Indian TV program, and one of the original intentions that prompted me to write this book. Therefore, after reading this book, especially after seeing the encounters and experiences of one of the protagonists, Rancher, Amir Khan's nerve of social responsibility was touched, so at this time, he wanted to accept the film, even if he was not paid. Come down to this role. The reason why Shakru agreed to ask Rajkumar to consult Amir Khan was because he knew Amir Khan's character very well, and he had even made plans to start a truth interview with Amir Khan. Except for the role of Rancher, I didn't care about the other choices of Shakru and let Rajkumar choose by himself. Although the final selection by Rajkumar was different from the original list of 3 idiots making trouble in Bollywood, they were all very capable actors. What was especially important was that these actors were all contracted actors from Polaris, so this was not a good choice. Crew was very satisfied and allocated a budget for Rajkumar to make preliminary preparations, just when Shakru was busy preparing for the 3 idiots to make a big splash in Bollywood. Mukesh suddenly found Shakru and said to him with a gloomy face, "Little Shakru, can you go through Singh? Contact Priyanka and her husband, or simply warn him. He is a soft-hearted person and should not stretch his hand so far. Otherwise, I will be rude to him. Maybe I would be his wife or mother-in-law. I have some scruples, but I really don't take him seriously. P.S. I plan to design an opponent with enough weight for the protagonist. You should be able to see it in tomorrow's chapter. Then please subscribe. I have been updating it twice a day, so everyone should automatically subscribe." Chapter 321 Free Rice. The man of Priyanka mentioned by Mukesh refers to Robert Vadra, the son-in-law of Congress Party Chairman Sonia Gandhi and husband of Priyanka Gandhi. Speaking of this Robert Vadra, he is the object of jealousy of all men in India, because his wife Priyanka Gandhi is so outstanding. In India, if you ask which celebrity has the star temperament and charm of Diana, people will definitely tell you that she is Priyanka, the daughter of Rajiv Gandhi, the 4th generation of the Gandhi family and former Indian Prime Minister. The beauty and handsomeness of the Gandhi family members are famous in India. Rajiv Gandhi is a handsome man, and his wife Sonia Gandhi is a beautiful girl from Italy. Their daughter Priyanka inherited her father's handsomeness and her mother's beauty. She looks very pretty and charming. Some media even used it as a title to praise her, with a fashionable short hair having the same star temperament and ubiquitous charm as Diana. Priyanka married Robert Vadra in 1999. Before marriage, many infatuated men had pursued her hard. Some of them often go to Sonia's residence at 10 Renman Road, New Delhi to beg the guards, hoping to be allowed to go in and talk to Priyanka, perform for her, or just take a look at her. An associate professor of a university was arrested and interrogated by the police for frequently writing love letters to her. He confessed that he met Priyanka by chance in London, England a few years ago, and was fascinated by her beauty. As a result, he could not continue his studies and had to drop out of school and return home early. Another 60-year-old teacher sued the Delhi court, saying that Priyanka often appeared in his dreams, making him restless. There was also a man who wandered in front of her residence for 3 consecutive days to attract her attention. In order to ensure the safety of Sonia's family, these infatuated men were arrested and put in solitary confinement. Some were arrested and interrogated, and more were sent home as mentally ill. In view of this, once the news of Priyanka's marriage to Robert Vadra came out, it caused an uproar in India, and many obsessed people even went on hunger strike to express their opposition. In India, where the marriage is extremely important, Robert Vadra is of a high caste, but before marrying Priyanka, he was just the owner of a small company that exports cheap fashion jewelry, and he has no special abilities. After marriage, he has been relying on the political power of the Gandhi family to do speculative business. It is not known what Priyanka likes about him, let alone how Sonia Gandhi agreed to this marriage. Coincidentally, Robert was not the only one who completed this kind of counterattack in 1999, married a white, rich and beautiful woman, and reached the peak of life. In South Korea, such an incredible thing also happened. Lee Boo-jin, the eldest daughter of Samsung Group, the first chaebol in South Korea, married her father Lee Kun-hee's bodyguard Lim Woo-ji, but this marriage did not come to an end. At the end of 2014, Lee Bujin filed for divorce on the grounds of emotional discord point. Although Shakru knew about Robert, he still couldn't figure out how this guy had offended Mukesh and made him so angry, so he asked, where did this guy reach out to? If he interfered in other things, I really wouldn't bother to argue with him, but now he is secretly supporting Anil. Don't you think this guy is too arrogant? Mukesh said angrily point after hearing this explanation. Shakru immediately understood why Mukesh was so angry, because now was the critical period for Mukesh and his biological brother Anil to compete for the head of the Xinjiang group. Although Mukesh was very confident, he didn't dare to take it lightly at this time, so anyone who helped Anil in the past was regarded as an enemy by him, so it was normal for him to be so annoyed with Robert. However, Shakru still didn't understand one thing, so he asked, what's the benefit for Vadra to help Anil? I remember that he is a guy who only cares about money. Mukesh shook his head and said, I'm not sure about this. Now I only know that Vadra is using the influence of the Gandhi family to cheer for Anil everywhere, but he must have some benefit in this, otherwise he wouldn't work so hard. But no matter what, since he is against me, I will never let him go. Do you really think I can't deal with him, a little white face who relies on women to get to the top? Shakru hurriedly advised, don't be impulsive, don't be impulsive. We are all doing business, and it will not be good for us if we really break up with the Gandhi family. So, brother, wait here for me. I will go to Prime Minister Singh to ask and see what is going on here. In fact, what Mukesh said just now was all angry words. As a successful businessman, he knows how to deal with it in the most appropriate way, otherwise he would not come to Shakru and go directly to fight Vadra. The reason why he didn't go to Singh himself was because he felt that he didn't have a good personal relationship with Singh. He did participate in the golden trade win last time under Shakru's persuasion, but afterwards, due to the busy affairs of seizing power, he didn't strengthen the contact in the later period, unlike Shakru who moved around so frequently, so he asked Shakru to mediate. However, Shakru didn't go directly to Prime Minister Singh, but found his chief assistant Siri. After all, Singh is extremely busy every day, and it is difficult for him to take time to see Shakru. Therefore, Shakru's recent contact with Singh is through Siri. Of course, the so-called contact is that Shakru cooperated with Singh to publish the results of divination twice. Now Shakru really feels a little bit like a royal sacrifice. After listening to Shakru's narration, Siri thought for a while and then said, I can roughly guess why Vadra did this, but I don't think it's the best solution to let Mr. Singh handle this matter. Let me introduce you to someone who is the most suitable person to solve this matter. As long as he is willing to speak, Vadra will definitely not be able to jump up. Chapter 322 Rahul. Shakru could understand Singh's reluctance to help directly. After all, Singh became Prime Minister by stealing Sonia's position. It was not appropriate for him to interfere in other people's family affairs just after taking office. However, he was puzzled by Siri's statement that there was someone more suitable to handle this matter than Singh. Who else could suppress Vadra besides Singh? Could it be Sonia or Priyanka? Siri made the contact the next day and told Shakru that he was looking for someone else this time, but Rahul Gandhi, the son of Sonia Gandhi and Priyanka's brother. The main reason why Vadra worked so hard to help Anil this time was that Anil promised that, as long as he succeeded in seizing power, he would fully support Priyanka's participation in politics in the future and provide all financial assistance. In fact, this is also because Vadra saw his wife Priyanka's political talent and potential power among the people in this election. Now many Indian people regard her as a combination of Indira, India's first female prime minister, and Priyanka's grandmother. And Diana, a political analyst, said, Priyanka has leadership qualities. If she enters politics, many people will follow her. As India's national election is about to begin, the call for Priyanka to enter politics is growing. Many people believe that as long as Priyanka announces her participation in politics, she will definitely become a box office star in future elections, and her sensational effect will even exceed that of her mother. Therefore, Vadra began to plan to pave the way for his wife, hoping that she can win the next election. To do this publicity, financial support is definitely indispensable. So after meeting Anil by chance, the two hit it off and cooperated to launch an attack on the ownership of the Reliance Group. Point as forcing. He absolutely does not want Priyanka to participate in politics because this will be a threat to his re-election. Yes, as a veteran in the political arena, Singh has already started planning for re-election since he took office. After all, his rise to power this time was very accidental. If it were not for the public and the BJP's excessive doubts about Sonia's Italian ancestry, this time the Prime Minister would definitely be Sonia, and she would also be the second female Prime Minister in Indian history after her mother-in-law Indira Gandhi. Given the Gandhi family's obsession with power, if they lost this term, they must take it back in the next term, especially since Priyanka Gandhi showed a strong leadership, temperament and political talent in this election to help her mother, so she will definitely be supported to run in the next term. If you want to disrupt this situation, then the best way is to start from within the Gandhi family, that is, to support Priyanka's brother Rahul Gandhi. It is very interesting to talk about Rahul Gandhi. From the time he entered politics in 2004 to 2016, there was no sign in him that he was the heir to the Gandhi family, the first family of India in the Gandhi family with 3 generations of ministers. He was introverted, shy and not good at speaking. This was the impression he left on everyone when he first entered the political arena. This was so incompatible with his great-grandfather who was a founding leader, his grandmother who was the Iron Lady of South Asia, his father who was the most handsome Indian Prime Minister in history, his mother who was an Italian and had great power in India, and his sister who was the national goddess. In 2014, he almost lost the Congress Party's stronghold constituency and only won 44 seats, a miserable defeat. Some people say that he was frightened after seeing his grandmother and father being assassinated, so why wasn't his sister, who is 2 years younger than him, frightened? Singh has almost watched Rahul grow up, and he knows very well that this child is not a threat to him at all, so he took the opportunity when Shakru came to him and asked Shakru and Mukesh, 2 big businessmen, to help Rahul, so as to cause disagreements within the Gandhi family and disturb the mood of Sonia and other parliamentarians. After all, in their opinion, if it is almost the same, it is more appropriate to choose a man as a successor than a woman. Although Shakru did not understand the profound meaning of Singh's move, he at least knew one thing, that is, if Rahul was willing to come forward, then Vadra would really have no way. After all, Vadra is a son-in-law, and Rahul is the real heir of the Gandhi family. Once he opens his mouth, neither Sonia nor Priyanka can speak to Vadra. He understood this truth, and Mukesh naturally understood it even more. So at the banquet that night, Shakru and Mukesh flattered Rahul in various ways. Mukesh even promised on the spot that he would not only build a factory in Immersed, Uttar Pradesh, where Rahul was a member of parliament, but also provide comprehensive financial support for Rahul's future election. Shakru also said that he would help the Immersed region introduce foreign investment and promote local economic development. Shakru didn't know how credible Mukesh's words were, but his words were absolutely real, because in his opinion, although Rahul was not strong enough and was not an excellent politician, at least he was much better than Narendra Modi, who was notorious internationally, and at least he would not do such a shitty thing when dealing with China. And now there are Chinese manufacturers contacting him, wanting to cooperate with him to set up factories, so the factory can be opened anywhere, so just open it in Rahul's place. Perhaps it was because there were very few businessmen of such importance who would flatter themselves like this, so Rahul seemed very happy tonight, especially after Shakru arranged 2 Ukrainian beauties to accompany Rahul according to Sira's suggestion. Shakru's peer agreed immediately and went back to tell Vadra not to let him interfere in Mukesh's family affairs anymore. After the banquet, Mukesh breathed a sigh of relief and said to Shakru, as long as Rahul goes back and tells his mother Sonia about this, then Vadra will not have to worry. After all, for Sonia, as long as Reliance Group is willing to support their Gandhi family, that's fine. It doesn't matter who she helps, and I believe that with her old school thinking, she still prefers her son. Otherwise, the MP for the Immersed constituency will not be Rahul but Priyanka. I believe she can't see who is more suitable for politics Her son or her daughter? Shakru nodded and said, brother, you are right, but I think the fight between you and Anil should come to an end. Keeping fighting like this will be of some benefit to the development of Xinjiang group. None. I also know it's time to end, but Anil just won't let it go. What can I do? If one person comes forward, this matter will definitely be solved. It depends on whether you are willing to give in a little bit, brother. Shakru suggested. Open bracket close bracket. Chapter 323, Kojina. But I can give him Reliance Assets and Reliance Communications. I think the income from these two companies is enough for him. Kojina said with some embarrassment. Nuke. If there are only Reliance Assets and Reliance Communication, I'm afraid Anil will not agree. As you know, he seems to have met a very powerful friend recently and helped him introduce him. Many powerful people came out to support him. Mukesh waved his hand and said, I know who is helping him, but starting from tomorrow, this person will not help him anymore. So please help me tell him that, if he is willing to give up honestly, he can still get these two companies, otherwise, he will have nothing. After that, he turned and left his mother's room. Although I didn't understand what the eldest son was talking about, Kojina still came to the younger son the next day. I really don't understand why she is partial to the younger son, even though she lives with the eldest son, but it seems that many old people are like this, in this way, pamper the youngest child. At this time, Anil was losing his temper because he had just learned from Vadra that he would not be able to help him anymore because his brother Mukesh somehow managed to get through to Rahul. As soon as Rahul and Sonia acted coquettishly, Sonia personally told Vadra that he would no longer support Anil in seizing power, although Vadra promised that he would definitely find a way to take revenge in the future. Anil still could not accept this situation, because once Vadra was gone, the big shots would no longer support him. After hearing her younger son's explanation, Kojina understood that what her eldest son said last night was true. So she said to Anil, Anil, it seems that you can't defeat your elder brother, or else who will? Listen to mom and just take over the assets and communications companies. No, I don't accept it. Why did the elder brother take away most of the industry and petrochemicals, but only gave me useless assets and communications? It really made me anxious, so I went to the court to sue him for all his bad things. Turn them all over. Anil said angrily. Kojina said angrily, that's enough. You don't think it's embarrassing enough, do you? Because of you too, our Ambani family has almost become the laughing stock of the entire India. Finally, your eldest brother agreed to give you two companies. Just let it go. How long do you want to fight? And do you think you can fight against your elder brother? Even if the entire group is given to you, you can control it already. So, with the mediation of Mukesh's mother Kojina Ambani, Mukesh and Anil reached a reconciliation. Eventually, Mukesh will take charge of Reliance Industries Limited and Indian Petrochemicals Corporation, which are the group's main petrochemical businesses. The two companies have annual revenue of $19 billion. Anil took over 3 subsidiaries of Reliance Energy, Reliance Communications and Reliance Assets. In a statement, both brothers stated that they would completely eliminate each other's shares in their companies. This peaceful separation plan also gave outside investors a sigh of relief. On the day the separation plan was announced, the Indian stock market exceeded the 7,000 point mark, and the stocks of the 4 listed subsidiaries of Reliance Group also achieved varying increases from 3.9 to 24.8. Shakru also took the opportunity to raise his stock price in advance. Hart teamed up and made a small fortune. This made Bharat sincerely sigh. It's easy for you rich people to make money. A piece of inside information is enough for me to earn from writing a book. P.S. I'm studying finance. Sometimes investment is just like this. Your analysis for a month is not as useful as someone else's insider information. Chapter 324, The Refrigerator That Doesn't Bend. Shakru nodded and said, so I said that the reason why I speculate and make money is not that I'm good at it, but because I have wide information channels and can know some things that the public does not know in advance, so it will naturally be easier to make money. This is why the reason why it is easier for rich people to make money and it is harder for poor people to make money is because the amount of capital is one thing, but the breadth of horizons and connections are the decisive factors. Well, what you said does make sense. Although he said this, Bhagat felt very bitter in his heart, because if it is like what Shakru said, then what is the use of studying economics and finance? Woolen cloth. I spend all day checking reports and analyzing data, but the results I get are not necessarily accurate. It's really sad to think that someone's internal information can completely destroy my efforts for a month. So he changed the subject and said, by the way, boss, I heard that you are going to jointly build a factory with a Chinese company in Amidi, Uttar Pradesh. Is this true? Yes, that's what happened. What's wrong? What do you think? But hesitated and then said, but boss, so far, almost no Chinese companies that have developed in India have succeeded. Isn't it too risky for you to do this? Just because no one has succeeded, it doesn't mean that they can't succeed. They failed because they didn't find the right way. I think my way is very likely to succeed. Shakru said calmly. The reason why Shakru is so confident is that the company he is looking to cooperate with this time is a Chinese company that was very successful in India in its previous life. Of course, this company is also very famous in China and is the trump card in the domestic refrigerator field. That is Haier company. In fact, Haier has long wanted to enter the Indian market. Because the temperature in India is very high, it is difficult to preserve food, so the demand for refrigerators is very high. However, it has not entered the Indian market because of various problems. Recently, I saw that Leo Wang's bicycle factory has successfully established a foothold in India. After consultation, I learned that Shaklu was the one who helped bridge the gap, so I also wanted to ask Shaklu for help. Since Shakru knew that Haier was developing very well in India in the later period, he planned to buy a share. Only then did he agree to Rahul's promise to attract investment to build a factory a few days ago. As for Haier, he heard that Shakru could get through and build a factory. The local congressman could reduce all the procedures and troubles to the greatest extent, so he was naturally happy to agree. Especially since Shakru claimed to have a good idea specifically for the Indian refrigerator market. He couldn't wait to come over and want to communicate. So at the banquet a few days later, Haier's deputy director Panlay couldn't help but asked after toasting Shakru a few glasses of wine, Mr. Pandit, you said you have a project specifically for India. Can you tell us about your refrigerator market planning? Shakru took a sip of wine and then said slowly, actually, it's not a plan, it's just a small improvement in the design of the refrigerator, based on the Indians' habit of using refrigerators. Oh, do Indians have any special habits when using refrigerators? The design director, who had never drank much, asked in confusion, because the weather here is very hot all year round. It is not easy to preserve food. Especially the vegetarian food that most people eat is more difficult to preserve and must be stored in the freezer. This also causes the freezer to be used more than the refrigerator. The frequency is higher, and the refrigerators on the market generally have a refrigerator compartment on the top and a freezer compartment on the bottom, so people choose you have to bend down when using ingredients. Not only is it troublesome to hold things for a long time, but it is also very easy to get waste problems. Therefore, my suggestion is to reverse the positions of the freezer and refrigerator and use this when promoting. If we vigorously promote the feature of not having to bend down as a selling point, I believe it will achieve good results. Shakru's words are not nonsense. In the previous life, Haier relied on this kind of non-bending B refrigerator to win 70% of the Indian refrigerator market, becoming a representative of the development and growth of domestic brands in India. Others are Xiaomi, Huawei and Lenovo to name a few. After listening to Shakru's explanation, the design director thought about it for a long time and then said in admiration, no wonder Mr. Pandit, you became a billionaire at a young age. Your ability to observe details is really impressive. Beforehand, we dispatched many investigators and sent out many questionnaires, but none of them found this. Don't worry, I will start designing and investigating this aspect when I get back. I believe that this convenient design will definitely become a success. It's for sale. Soon, Shakru's suggestion passed the investigation and verification. The investigation department found that the current situation was indeed as Shakru said. The probability of using freezers in India is much higher than that of refrigerators. This is consistent with domestic and international trends. The mainstream usage on the internet is exactly the opposite. If you grasp this point, you will definitely be able to increase sales, since he had shares in it, and Shakru really wanted to help domestic brands take root in India and achieve healthy development. Shakru worked very hard in the subsequent factory construction process, especially when handling various procedures. Relying on his good relationship with Rahul, the speed of handling the procedures was close to the speed of light. All the procedures were completed in just half a month. Such a speed is amazing not only for foreign companies, but also for local Indian companies. Shakru himself was very emotional, because when he established his first company, Chennai Company, he still found Mr. Isaac Shukla, the father of Charles, and now he can help others with such things. It seems that he has indeed grown up. However, the next problem encountered is difficult to solve even for a wealthy and powerful local tycoon like Shakru. That is, the quality of workers in India. Workers are easy to recruit, and the wages are not high, but the problem is that the quality of these workers is really too poor, especially for Chinese businessmen like Haya who have just come to India from China and have adapted and become accustomed to the hard-working and diligent Chinese workers. When they see these Indian workers are absent-minded and often lazy, they are furious in this regard. Shakru also spread his hands and said helplessly, "Director Pan, you come to me for this matter. I can't do anything. The workers in our country are like this. Otherwise I would not have come all the way to your country to open a branch factory. To be honest, I don't have many production tasks in my main factory in New Delhi now. Most of the orders are placed in the 2 branches in the northeast of your country for production, because the quality of your workers is the best I have ever seen." Open bracket close bracket. Chapter 325. We both have the last name Pan. Director Pan smiled bitterly and said, "Mr. Pandit, I understand what you are saying, but Haya is now going to open up the market in your country, so we can only build a factory in your country and recruit workers. If we produce it domestically and then ship it over, the cost is too high. Mr. Pandit, I beg you, for the sake of our surname Pan, you must help me find a way." When he heard the words "our surname is Pan," Shakru almost lost his voice in joy. This reason was so perfect. Seeing that the other party had already been holding back this, Shakru thought for a long time, and then said, "Well, although I don't have any good ideas in this regard, my wife's family, the Patala family, has a lot of experience in this regard. The management ability is still very strong. I will help you hire some managers. You can see if you can learn from their management experience and techniques." Okay, thank you so much," Director Pan said hurriedly. After solving the most scratching problem at hand, Director Pan was in the mood to chat with Shakru. After chatting for a while, Director Pan suddenly said, "Mr. Pandit, actually there is something wrong with what you just said. Now, the quality of China's workers is no longer good. Today's children are all only children and have been in honeymoon since childhood. If you soak it in a jar, you won't be able to endure hardship at all. A friend of mine in Guangdong told me this year that there was a labor shortage in Guangdong during the Spring Festival. You know, this was something that was impossible to do before. At that time, we were all looking for workers, but now we actually don't have enough workers to recruit, so we have orders, but can't complete the tasks. Today's children are arrogant and would rather work in an office if they make less money rather than work hard in a factory. Unlike their parents' generation, they would endure any hardship and even take the initiative to work overtime, as long as they can make money. Today's children are unwilling to work overtime, even if you give them overtime pay. Of course, this is also related to their parents. They all feel that they have suffered a lifetime and cannot let their children make the same mistakes again, so they all send them to college to catch up with the expansion of college enrollment. So now there are college students all over the world who are proud of their status. If you are unwilling to work at the grassroots level, you see, this phenomenon will become more and more serious in the future. Shakru agreed very much with factory director Pan's statement, because in 2016, when he traveled back in time, this phenomenon had become more and more serious, especially on construction sites. The workers who now work on construction sites are basically, most of them are people in their 40s and 50s, and there are even workers in their 60s. On the contrary, young men in their 20s are the rarest. According to the words of Shakru's uncle, who was a foreman in his previous life, "You think I don't want to recruit big boys in their 20s with big shoulders and round waists? The problem is that we simply can't recruit them." Today's children think that the work on the construction site is too tiring and too heavy. It's hard and dirty, and no one wants to come. I would rather work at an easy job earning 2,000 yuan a month than work on a construction site earning more than 10,000 yuan a month. So Shakru said with some worry, "If you say that, then I will also face such a problem in the future." The workers there are all very old, and the salary level in China is getting higher and higher. It seems that I also have to think of a long-term solution. In fact, Shakru has been considering this issue for a long time. With the development of China's economy, people's income has gradually increased. In 1997 and 1998, Shakru's factory offered a salary of 1,000 yuan, which was envied by people throughout Changchun. But in 2004, with less than 3,000, you still have the nerve to say that you work for a foreign company? But the problem is that the selling price of Welgun never rises, so Shakru's profits are getting lower and lower. That is, because he really can't find more suitable workers. Otherwise he would really want to change places. Moreover, as time goes by, wages will continue to rise in the future, but it will be difficult for workers to hire suitable people, so it will be a matter of time to build a factory in another location sooner or later. Factory. Director Pan thought for a moment and then said, "Mr. Pandit, there is actually a place that meets your requirements. The workers have high standards, good attitudes, and are not afraid of working overtime. The salary requirements are also low. I estimate that one can be opened every month. 200 yuan is enough, but I don't know if you dare to build a factory there. Is there such a good place in the world?" Shakru asked in surprise, while silently thinking in his mind, where can such a good place exist? It is definitely impossible in China. It is like this in the northeast. Prices along the coast are definitely more expensive, and the northwest is not much lower. Could it be Vietnam? But I heard that Vietnamese people are not easy to manage, but Vietnamese women are quite obedient. Just when Shakru was thinking wildly, factory director Pan suggested to say that the best workers can only appear in socialist countries. Now you should know where I'm talking about, right? Socialist countries? Shakru mentally picked up the few remaining socialist countries and understood immediately, so he opened his mouth and asked, "Are you talking about Korea?" In order to avoid being 404, I can only use Korea instead. Hey, writing this reminds me of my poor Rebirth of Korea 2008. What a good subject. I insist on not being allowed to write. Director Pan nodded and said, "Yes, it's Korea. The people there are so poor now. Except for the capital Pyongyang, people are starving to death in many places. As long as you feed them, you will risk your life. I'll do the work for you, and the workers are good. You are of high quality, hard-working, obey the distribution, and never make trouble. In addition, your products are different from ours, in that they are small in size, have low transportation costs, and have a low transportation damage rate. They can be used wherever the factory is built, unlike ours that produce home appliances. The transportation cost is too high." Shakru thought about it and realized that this was indeed the case. Nowadays, Korea is extremely poor. The father and son surnamed Jin in the whole country are fat, while the others are thin. Moreover, Korea's industrial base was still good at that time. It is necessary to recruit a group of people. It should not be difficult to find qualified workers. However, Korea is not all good places. There are still two fatal troubles. So Shaklu asked, "Director Pan, you are right. Korea is indeed very suitable for building a factory. But I'm also compatible with that person. It's not online. It's hard to say whether Korea will allow foreign investment to build factories. Now Korea has promulgated the Foreign Business Protection Law and welcomes foreign businessmen to invest in Korea. Many Chinese businessmen have already gone there. I happen to know a very good Chinese businessman in Korea. If you are interested, go to I can introduce it to you later. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.